Hello everyone, welcome back to New Game of Flame. It should be October 12th, 2024. And I'm joined here by Diego. Hello, Diego.
Hello.
And we have a special guest, St1ka, again with us. Thank you for coming, St1ka. Hello.
Pleasure to be here.
And we have yet another special guest that is involved in the game we're going to talk about today, who is called Michael. Hello, Michael, aka Amerika.
Hello. Nice to be here, guys.
How you doing? Are you okay?
Yeah, everything's going great.
That's a British way, by the way. I'm so now used to saying this. People sometimes think, oh, what do you mean I'm okay?
What do you mean? Well, how dare you ask about my well-being?
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about a new game for another platform, as we do usually. This one is going to be on a Neo Geo. And I think before we move to talk about said game, I think we should get to know Amerika, or aka Michael, a little bit better. So I don't know if Mike, if you can introduce yourself and talk about who you are and about your studio that you're working.
Yeah, hi, hello. My name is Michael. That's my first name, and I also go by the online name of Amerika. So if you look on Twitter or Discord or something like that, you see that name, that's me. I live in the United States. I live in Kansas, specifically in Kansas City. I don't mind people knowing that, so I'm upfront with it. I've broadcasted it everywhere before because we've had some local events for people to show up to play the game.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know what other details, I guess.
Well, I have asked St1ka in the past as well, and I ask any new person who comes to the show to nominate a favorite savory snack and a favorite sweet snack, if you can think of one.
Oh, yeah. Favorite savory snack.
Sorry. I have to be very precise. It has to be packageable, and also like it has to be in a packet and you can buy it in a packet.
Okay. So my favorite probably savory snack, at least currently right now, is the, what is it? Sea salt and black pepper Triscuits. I don't know if you guys have Triscuits where you're at.
I have no idea what a Triscuit is.
Yeah. I was wondering if that would throw you or not, but I have been eating a lot of those with like the Triscuits, and like you can put like, you know, cheese on it, like a little meat, something like that. And it makes like a nice little snack.
I Googled it, and the thing that comes up says bigger crickets in a packet, and you eat the crickets. It's not
crickets.
Yeah, crickets.
I'm not eating any crickets unless you guys use cricket. Unless you guys use the word cricket differently than I do.
Well, I did Google
I found something that I think I might have actually tasted this, but never knew it as Triscuit. So is it a sort of like biscuit, but with?
Yeah, it's made with wheat. Yeah, I would say it's kind of like a biscuit. It's more about like the texture and the way it's made. It's pretty basic tasting, but they're fairly delicious. So
sorry, how do you spell Triscuit?
Triscuits.
Ah, see.
Is it that kind of cracker that it feels like it almost feels like straw when you
a little bit
like made of tiny strands.
Here, let me
something like that.
I'll post a link to exactly what I'm talking about,
because that's at least what I think I had eaten it sometimes, and it's quite interesting. If it is that, I'm not exactly sure, but
I'm looking at it right now. It just looks like a normal biscuit to me.
Yeah, there's really nothing special about them. It's just more about how they're made, the texture, how kind of they're a little bit thicker. They're not quite like a cracker. I guess I don't know if you guys, we call cracker, you guys call them biscuits, I think. I think that's how that works. And yeah, like I said, there's not much to it. I usually get the sea salt and pepper one, but they have different flavors. Like I think they have a rosemary something flavor that's pretty good. And then just like the normal, just default Triscuit, whatever that is, whatever flavor that is, they're all good.
They look like a bit like what we have here, shredded wheat, but like squashed down versions.
Kind of like that. Actually, I think that's exactly what it is.
Hey.
Just no sugar or anything like that.
No, in fact, yeah.
Or sweetener.
Yeah, they're pretty plain if you don't put anything on them. Okay, that's interesting. What about sweet?
Sweet. That one's a little bit more difficult. But my more recent favorite, because I went to a kind of a small town that's nearby that had I don't know, a bunch of like shopping and stuff like that. I went with my wife and my parents. It's called Saltwater Taffy.
You have the most exotic names.
Yeah. I've heard of that actually.
I heard the name too.
You can buy it. Yeah, saltwater taffy, and you can get it in a lot of places around here make it, and so there's a lot of like local versions of it, and you can get it in all kinds of flavors, and it is amazing. Like you get like one of those kind of grab bags that just has a bunch of different flavors in it, and they're usually pretty good, unless you run into the licorice one. I don't like licorice.
Oh no.
Hey, it's fine if you like licorice. It's never sat well with me.
I think you just stumbled upon a group of licorice fan here.
Oh no.
I've had it. It's
No
fine.
worries.
It's fine.
Okay, there it's Stika's in my corner here.
It's
a little
fine.
bit.
I mean, I can take it or leave it, to be honest.
Yeah, I won't spit it out or anything. Like it's not awful. It's just definitely if I had like 10 different flavors of saltwater taffy, licorice flavor would be at the very bottom.
I only had licorice as part of like I guess not gummy bears, but like gummy related sweets, I guess, and they were fine, I suppose.
So you never tried the concentrated little pellets?
No. They're only like licorice flavored gummies, I guess. That is the best way to name them. I don't think we have those here, to be honest. Licorice is not a very common or popular flavor here.
If you'd like licorice, I would have sent you one, but it's because you said I'll take it or leave it.
It's not really my. Whenever I get those gummies, I always go for the same flavor, banana flavor. Those are S tier.
Banana flavor gummies. There you have it. Well, thank you. I think, let's talk about Nalua Studio a bit, if you don't mind. Like, sure. How did this studio come to exist? And I don't know. I'll just leave you. I've got a set of questions here, but I'll let you just free reign.
Yeah, no problem. Pretty much Nalua is sort of like the baby of the guy who founded Terra Onion, or one of the two guys who founded Terra Onion. And he just really his whole life is just wanted to make a video game. He's also been very, very connected to the arcade scene and absolutely loves the Neo Geo platform, specifically the MVS platform, and but also loves the AES. And so he decided that he wanted to make a game. He tried to make a deal with some other companies to try to figure out like, hey, I've got this idea. Do you guys want to run with it? He kind of didn't get where he wanted to go with that. And then was like, you know what? I'm just going to try to like get some people together and see if we can come up with something. And so him and another friend found a guy who could do the programming for it, and all the basically everything's in C code. Some of our tooling's in C#, and so get somebody who's experienced. Found somebody. He's in. We talked about him a little bit. Well, I guess we hadn't talked about him on the podcast here. But he's in Hungary. I think I actually mentioned that he was in Turkey, but he's actually in Hungary. And he's in Budapest. And super amazing guy, has a lot of experience. And so they started building out a game. And also one of the founder, his name's Alex, one of his good friends is extremely good at concept art. So he started making a ton of concept art for the game, like started kind of fleshing out the characters, the world. And then they kind of put like a little bit of a story behind it to try to, kind of give some sort of continuity, I guess. And they started kind of putting out this proof of concept, and they created like a main character. They had one single character, and they had a couple of enemies in this like city level. And what happened is they started playing it, and they're like, oh, this doesn't play very good. Or at least they didn't think it played very good. So naturally, what you want to do in that situation is you want to give it to other people and see what they think, give feedback, figure out like what their
Mm.
ideas are, maybe, because when you got something that's real close to you, you sometimes can't see what's right in front of you, like what's wrong.
Yeah.
And so he recruited myself and a couple other people who had helped with like basically beta test some other products and stuff, trustworthy people that could basically sign an NDA and not talk about stuff. And so we come on board, and I ended up writing up a giant like essay, basically, of like, hey, you guys have got something here. This looks great, but it doesn't feel great. You can do this and this and this maybe, and this would maybe probably help out. And there you go. Well, this is early on in the studio. I will get along with the rest of it.
Yeah.
We ended up at that point. Talking to me, and he goes, would you just come into the developer server or development server and talk to our program and see if we can implement some of those ideas? And I'm like, all right. So did that. And that was kind of like the formation of the core of Nalua. We had the guy that was doing the pixel art. He's this guy, Thomas. He's worked on like a bunch of games, including recently Shredder's Revenge, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge.
Yeah.
So you can probably see some similarities even in the art style, because that's the kind of style he loves drawing in.
Yeah.
And we ended up recruiting after that Pentadrangle to do the OST for us. And he's also in Spain. Oh, that's another thing. A lot of the people that we have on the team are all around the world. Thomas is in Ireland. Alex is in Andorra. A couple of guys are in Spain. We've got the main programmer in Hungary. I'm in the United States. So we're all like kind of in different time zones and things like that, which makes it very interesting when you're going into a creative project that requires a lot of constant like talking to each other. But yeah, that's kind of how the core team of Nalua was formed. And we ended up just creating from there.
When would you say then it started off exactly as a date? Like if you had to celebrate an anniversary.
We don't really have one. I mean, I can go back and find where the first build is and check the date on that. It was about 2.5 years ago, is I think when they first had something playable. I joined about 2 years ago, when there was just like the like I said, the very early concept stuff going on. I don't even think there was sound at the time, and so yeah, it's been in development for a while now, or at least a while. But it would have been much faster, but when you got a whole team of brand new people, stuff takes a while.
Yeah, I guess. And also because you're all over the world, the communications can be probably slowed down.
Yeah, it can be. We try to do our best to get around that problem. Like we use like basically a Trello board. Where like I'll go at night and I'll write up like, here's a ticket for this that I want to see. Here's this, here's this, here's this. And then I go to bed, and usually about the time I go to sleep is when our programmer, Gabor in Hungary, is coming online. And so we can talk a little bit right around that time if we need to. He'll go through tickets. I'll wake up, and then I'll see what he's done. And then we've got a few hours to communicate. So it actually worked pretty nice. It almost felt like Christmas morning sometimes. Like, I go to bed at night and then I get my presents of like stuff being done in the morning, and I could go test it out and make sure that all worked pretty good. So I kind of actually like that. But yes, it did slow things down. It does slow things down just a little bit.
Yeah, I can imagine. But yeah, it seems like quite nice, actually. I'd like to wake up and find stuff done for me. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's usually just leave some more stuff that I need to do. So that's kind of how it is making a game. It's even more involved than I would have thought, because this is my first game that I've been involved in. I've been in software development for a long time, shipping products and whatnot. However, with actual video game development, not so much. And it's definitely way more free form as well.
Yeah. I can imagine.
A little less structured, a little more free form, but that's nice because then we can iterate really fast. Like somebody goes, hey, I got a great idea. And then you can talk it out a little bit, and then like, all right, let's try that out, see if it works, or if it doesn't work. So it's kind of nice.
I do have a bit of a question. Like, we've been seeing a lot of modern games for the NES, the Game Boy, the Mega Drive, or Sega Genesis, as it's called in the US. Excuse me. And I'm sure that it's well known that the Neo Geo generally did not sell as well as those systems. So, like, were you ever like maybe thinking, okay, so are we risking it by having our system like being modeled after the Neo Geo. I know that there's a digital version being made, that it's on Steam, but like were there any fears over it that maybe the Neo Geo just wouldn't have the same appeal, or that it might people might just ignore it because they were more likely to have like Game Boys in their homes? Just were there any doubts regarding to the scope of the Neo Geo at least?
I wouldn't say there's any doubts. We
Mm-hmm.
went in knowing exactly what the user base is for the Neo Geo,
Mm-hmm.
and we knew we were making something that not many people were actually going to buy. Because number one, like you said, install base isn't great,
Mm-hmm.
and all this hardware is also aging. However, there is a lot of arcade. There's like a lot of people that are like
Absolutely.
consoleizing MVS, so it's a lot bigger than what the AES numbers are. However, the other factor is price. Like, even though the prices of games, like we still knew it was going to be $300-400 for a cartridge, because the
Mm-hmm.
components, like a Neo Geo cartridge, I don't know if you ever held one before.
I have.
They're huge.
Yes.
They're two PCBs. There is a lot involved in getting the game out to the console, and it is not cheap. Like the fast ROMs and stuff like that, and like we actually have technology in our cartridge to help like protect people from just dumping it,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. It's not cheap. Even if you go really cheap, like you just basically get some ROMs burnt, you throw it on there, you get something to handle everything. It's still not cheap. It takes a lot of money to make a cartridge. So we knew that going in, and we were okay with that. That's why actually we, from day one, we were planning on porting to, PC, Switch, PlayStation, Xbox, making sure that we could try to make basically at least the development cost back. Cause that's actually
Mm-hmm.
the main goal. Alex's main goal is like, I don't even care if I make money. We're a new studio, new IP. You know how hard it is. There's like 100 games released today. We know what we're going up against, but if we can end up basically making development costs back, then we can keep making games, because he is doing this mostly for passion, not for profit. It would be great if profit comes with it, but
Mm-hmm.
but that is definitely something that we discussed, is the lower the user base. And the other side of that, you actually, almost everything you named has really, really good development SDKs behind it. The Neo Geo has an SDK, kind of. Well, I mean, it does have one, but it's not nearly as good or fleshed out as
Okay.
those. And there's like the build system and tooling that you need to be able to generate not just the Neo Geo version, but then the Windows version and the PlayStation version. All that had to be custom created, everything. So a lot of people will kind of go the route of like, here's the ROM and here's an emulator to play that ROM. Bam, here's your Windows version, or bam, here's your PlayStation version. That introduces all kinds of issues like sounds not being correct, latency, things like that from the emulators themselves if they're not that good. We have native builds for everything. So that was another one of our goals, is so the quality bar is still pretty high no matter what platform you play on.
Damn, that's impressive.
So yeah, I'm pretty happy with how we did it. But that's also part of the reason why it took 2.5 years.
So I guess the real question is, why is there no Sega Genesis version, and when will there be one?
Yeah.
It is. Well, see, you've probably noticed this. There's quite a few Neo Geo games coming out, but almost all of them were developed with the Mega Drive slash Genesis in mind. And you can tell it was developed for the Mega Drive, and just no disrespect to them. I have almost all of them on my shelves over here. I support those devs pretty heavily, or as much as I can. And they make great games. However, they're and that's just their strategy. It makes the most sense because they've got the biggest user base. They've got a very passionate user base. Mega Drive, especially right now. There's a wonderful, wonderful couple different SDKs you can use to make just crazy, good-looking, well-optimized, well-running Sega Genesis Mega Drive games. And that's just not the case for Neo Geo. You have to have a lot of expertise and go through a lot of pain in order to do that. However, I
appreciate the commitment, though.
That's why it says like we all had almost all of us came from a love, including myself, a love of the Neo Geo. When I was a kid, I used to see it. We had this store called Toys R Us. And there was this locked off section that you really couldn't get into, or at least I never got into, that had the Neo Geo and all the games. They even had like a little place you can go play them, but I never got to actually do it. So it was always like this little walled garden for me. And I remember reading about all the games, and I'd even buy the Super Nintendo version of those games, which were never as good. So, but yeah, there's no plans to port to the Mega Drive. It could possibly be done, but it's much easier to port forward. So,
Understandable.
if we did anything like that, it'd be something more like Dreamcast or something like that.
Oh, Dreamcast would be
Mhm.
nice.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we even looked into that. We actually exceed the amount of pallets that the Dreamcast can use. Weirdly, the Neo Geo is a beast in that area, so we'd
Yes.
actually have to cut that. We'd have to change some stuff, but it would be possible.
That's awesome. So, what are your plans for Nalua Studio as you go forward? Like, what would you like it to be or become? Or
Pretty much just a known studio that's producing pretty fun games that people want to play. I think that's pretty much the goal for everybody behind their studio. I mean, I guess some people probably would just want to make money or something like that, but for us, it's mostly just kind of keep making games. We've made this game. We're already in development on the next game.
but I guess my question, sorry, I guess my question is more like, are you still gonna go the retro route, or is your
Oh
ambition to go more on the Steam and modern games?
no! Right now, it's sticking with the Neo Geo.
Okay, that's
Yeah, I would not
reassuring.
mind. I have brought up since I grew up with a Super Nintendo. I have a huge love for the Super Nintendo. I also, as somebody who enjoys technology and wants to use some cool stuff, the Super Nintendo also has a lot of helper chips
Mm-hmm.
that would make making a new game with a lot of cool effects that still runs on a regular Super Nintendo pretty interesting. And I got some ideas there, but we'll probably never go that route. Currently, we all want to do Neo Geo, so we're probably sticking to that route. We've talked about making a modern game because boy, using a modern engine to make a game would just be so much easier.
Yeah.
So much easier. So we have discussed that, but we're not far enough in since we haven't released this yet. We don't know what success looks like for us, so we really can't really go beyond what we're going to do next, which is just another game.
Yeah, because you haven't released yet, have you? So
Nope. We are hoping to release at the end of this month. Currently the game is done, like done. Unless we find any sort of extra bugs, which so far I haven't, it's done. And everything's finalized. We have PlayStation 4 and 5 certification done. We have Steam certification done. Switch is almost done. And Xbox, if they can ever fix their problems, we would also get done with that. I don't know if you guys have heard about Xbox and their issues with people trying to get games on their platform, but it's not good right now.
No, I'm unaware. I don't know what's going on, but I suppose it's hard work. All this stuff, yeah, of course.
Oh, it's a lot of paperwork too.
Yeah.
A lot of paperwork.
So I do have another question before we go ahead, which is, I think I got inspired by what Stika said, and like thinking about, okay, so you put it on Steam and you got these PS4 and all these new platforms. How do you feel going? I don't know. Do you feel, in fact, the question should be, do you feel like you're going to go against the modern games when you put it on a modern platform? And you have to measure up to those?
Yes, actually, that was a huge thing for me specifically, because one of the issues that I found when I first came on board was that the game was mostly just walk right, punch a few times, enemies fall over, some new enemies just walk onto the screen, you punch again, and then it tells you to move on. And I'm like, the genre died out in the 90s because there was a glut of those style of games where there was just no originality, no take on the formula, no trying to extend that out a little bit. And that was something that I really wanted to change with the game when I came on board, but that was primarily also to be able to compete against modern games. So Vengeance Hunters isn't like your typical beat 'em up. You don't just walk forward, press one button. A lot of people would never even jump. They'd only press one button, stuff like that. And people can play Vengeance Hunters like that. It's even set up and designed for people to just kind of mash a button and then hit another button and just move on. Even balance-wise, difficulty-wise, you're supposed to be able to do that. However, for anybody who wants to get into meat and mechanics, it's got a ton of that. It's true. Yeah. There's a lot of combos that you can use both on the ground and the air. And then also one of the other things that I didn't like about beat 'em ups of their era in the 90s is like you walk into somebody and you grab them. That interrupts gameplay so often in a lot of those beat 'em ups. And so we originally had that in our game and we took it out. And I made the character of Golem specifically for people who want to do throws. So we gave him like 10 throws. You've got tons of, you press down when you hit your throw button. We call it the signature move button. You throw down, he slams the enemy in the ground, they bounce up in the air, and then you can jump after them and punch them against a wall, which causes a wall splat. And then you can jump again and do it again, and then you can jump and you can pile drive them into the ground, or you can throw them left or right to do some sort of crowd control with it. So you get all these, and that's just with the down throw. There's a left and right throw. There's an up throw. If you're in the air, there's a couple different throws. There's also a pile driver. So if you press down and up and then hit the signature move button, you'll do a pile driver, which does an AoE to everybody in the area. So anybody who wants that kind of throw combat style, they've got a character, or we got a character for you.
It's funny because I actually did miss the throws, but I played all three characters. But when I was playing with the other two, I'm like, oh man, I missed using throws. The Streets of Rage fanatic just missed those.
Yeah. See, and that's the thing is like, and I knew that. And again, back to your question is like, trying to measure up to modern games is like, well, we needed those mechanics for people that are used to newer games that have a lot of those mechanics. And but yeah, it's like going, well, with the throws, like some people really resonate with the Golem character because he can do all those throws. They just want to do that. They can do the crowd control. They can do the clumping of enemies. They can do a bunch of stuff in that area. But then there's a character like, say, Candy, who has a cartwheel. You ever played Dark Souls, Demon Souls, Elden Ring? Okay, so you know the dodge roll, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so Candy, her signature move is that cartwheel. Imagine that cartwheel being the dodge roll. You get invulnerability frames. She has less HP than Golem or Looney, but she can get out of a ton of stuff. And with that cartwheel, it not only gives you invulnerability frames to get out of damage and get out of danger, you can relaunch enemies that you've hit into the air with it. So it's a combo extender. So, you can knock an enemy up in there. You just hit A, and you knock an enemy straight up in the air. As it's coming down, you can just hit cartwheel and knock it back up in the air. Or if like you've knocked multiple enemies in the air, you can use that, and you can do that twice. And so and she does way more damage in the air than she does on the ground. But then also with that cartwheel, when you jump much further. And then if you hit the strong attack button when an enemy is on the ground, you do a ground and pound. She pulls out these two knives and stabs people. So she's like the character that I call the high RPM character. If you want to just keep pressing buttons, like you don't want to get hit, your glass cannon, you want to move around, she's your character. So that's her kind of identity and her theme, where Golems is more about like, wrestling, throwing people around, stuff like that, to try to break away from both the 90s era sort of like just walk right and press punch and just throw people once or twice. That's how I break away from that and differentiate a little bit. So, and then Looney has his own identity. I don't need to go into his stuff unless you guys want me to to answer your question. But
let's start from the beginning. So, as usual, I'll let Diego introduce the game a little bit more, even if we've been on it now for a bit.
Sorry, I'm going off script.
No, it's fine. Don't worry about it. It's just how it comes, it comes. But yeah. We'll start from an overview and a bit of the story, the background story, and some first impressions that we can all give.
All right. Okay, so how would I present Vengeance Hunters to anyone who is about to try it out, hopefully, when it comes out? Well, I would have defined the game as a fairly classic beat 'em up in the style of Double Dragon or Golden Axe, perhaps, but with a bunch of twists, and especially with quite a variety of possible tactics, if you want. It's otherwise the basic premise is that it's a horizontal scrolling beat 'em up. Main purpose, we could say, it's to survive enemy waves and reach the end of the level, eventually some boss fight at the end of the level. All of it in a sort of a post-apocalyptic horror theme that mixes up zombies and mutants and other monstrous creatures that I don't know if I am allowed to spoil who they are. But let's say that there is a little bit of everything there. And usually also monsters have their own variations to learn. So some monsters might kind of be built on the same graphics but with different color schemes, and then each one is going to have different moves. And so basically you control your character with the 4 buttons on a Neo Geo platform. So there's a button for fast attacking, another for a stronger attack, one for jumping, and one for your character's signature move. Then of course there's plenty of combos to figure out, so you can press simultaneously more than one button. The game itself teaches you at the very beginning that if you press the attack and jump simultaneously, then this is called desperate move, I think. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
Desperation is, I think, how we have
Desperation
it
move.
in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So sort of a boost, very strong attack which costs part of your life energy, maybe something like 1/4 of your life energy every time you use it, and you can't use it if it would kill you by doing so. So the game.
I would like to add on to that one little bit because that is actually one of the things I did not like about those old games, is that you would lose life permanently. You get gray health. Once you hit enemies back or wait a certain amount of time, you can get that health back. But if you get hit, you lose it. So it's risk versus reward.
Yes.
So yeah, I just wanted to add that in there because that's one of my pet peeves of this genre. I don't like losing permanent HP.
Yes, that's right. So you can also play this game in co-op mode for 2 players. I don't know if there's a possibility to ever play it with 3, but there are 3 possible characters to choose from. And each one has quite a different fighting style that at least I didn't explore all the combos, of course. I had, let's say, still a very superficial experience with playing these characters, but you can immediately tell that they work differently from the start. So there's Candy, which is I would say she's basically a martial artist, very fast, very acrobatic, very mobile. Then there's Golem, the robot, which you already mentioned, that has a lot of powerful grab and throws. And Looney, it's let's say it's a strongman character who is also some kind of cyborg. He has a weaponized fist. And so each character are different in a variety of ways. So, as you said already, Candy, it's a little bit like a glass cannon, so it's somewhat more fragile, but she's a lot more mobile, and she's capable of avoiding being hit, while the other 2 perhaps, well, they just have to soak up some punches every now and then. And each one gets its signature move: the cartwheel for Candy, the throws for Golem, and Looney can shoot his fist, as well as also each one gets its separate, it's their own desperation move. So all the game then evolves about going through these levels with the environment of which you can also interact a little bit. So there are things such as crates and vases that you can break for possible bonuses, like some food that replenishes your life faster, or some money or valuables that give you extra points, and also some special add-ons that are like temporary weapons that will work in place of your signature move, however. So you might want to either use them or not. I sometimes didn't want to pick them up because I actually prefer to keep using my signature move, but otherwise they are temporary only, and they are very powerful to hit multiple enemies, even though on a kind of short range.
Great.
So there's many things you can interact with the environment. Actually, there's lots of stuff that explodes. For example, some TNT crates or barrels that you can trigger by hitting them, and then they explode. And things in this game tend to affect both your player characters as well as the enemies. So they are double-edged swords. You can use these to damage the enemies, but you also have to be careful about not damaging yourself.
Before we go on, hang on a second. Let's say first impressions. When you booted it up, St1ka, what did you think?
It was interesting because first off, I loved like the company logo, which was modeled after the Neo Geo boot up screen. That was pretty great. I love that. So like it gave me that Neo Geo feel, but when I began playing it, and this is actually something I want to talk about later, but the graphical style is so modern that there was a bit of a clash for me. So like I got a feeling of a Neo Geo game, but also like a modern beat 'em up. So at some point there was like an internal clash with me because
we'll have to have a conversation about that topic specifically, because that is something that others have brought up, and I do have a response to that.
I would love to hear it.
Okay.
Because and again, I'm not saying one is better than the other, but like when you think Neo Geo beat 'em ups, you think the classic 90s pixel art design.
You think of the fighting games made by SNK.
Yeah, exactly.
By the same couple artists.
Not even just that. Like you think stuff like from Capcom, from Sega, even from Konami. Like that basically the beat 'em ups from that generation had a very specific art style where they were trying to be realistic with a few hints of anime, I guess. Whereas Vengeance Hunters is like just full on cartoony, full on like the characters are more exaggerated portions or more cartoon like.
That is fair, because our design document was go for Saturday morning cartoon.
Yes, and it felt that like as I was playing it, I'm like, this reminds me a lot of the of Shredder's Revenge art style. So I really enjoyed like the art style, but there's always a bit of a clash because like it's a Neo Geo game, but the modern visuals make you think it's a modern game. So I without realizing it, I'm not playing it like a Neo Geo game. I'm playing it like a modern beat 'em up, if that makes sense. Because the modern visuals are automatically tell me that I shouldn't play this as if it were Final Fight or as if it were really any beat 'em up from that era, if that makes sense.
No, like that like I said, I've got kind of a response to that, because like you mentioned even Capcom stuff, and you're thinking of specifically Final Fight, know, 1989 developed Final Fight versus who developed the Punisher, who developed Aliens versus Predator.
Yes, Capcom.
Yeah, now think about how those games look, and think of how Vengeance Hunters looks. And then also look at, like, remember we were talking about the SNK stuff. It's like everybody thinks of the fighting games, but everybody forgets about like Nightmare in the Dark, forgets about Blue's Journey, forgets about Metal Slug. Go look at Metal Slug. It looks like a Saturday morning cartoon. So I get that quite a little bit, but it's literally because everybody just thinks of King of Fighters, just thinks of Fatal Fury, and forgets about all the other stuff, including the other companies who made stuff at that time when the Neo Geo was relevant. I'm not saying you're wrong. Yeah, I was kind of the same way. When I think of Neo Geo, I think of it actually as that same art style, because I played all the fighting games. And I even think of World Heroes. That actually has like a very similar art style.
I get your point, but my counterpoint is it's not just that it looks cartoony, but like even the backgrounds, it looks very much like Shredder's Revenge. It's honestly the closest comparison I can think of, because it just immediately snapped me back to that. And like it's a very modern approach to pixel art, which I'm not saying is worse, but you can clearly tell like this, like it's not a game you'd confuse for a classic Neo Geo game, is what I'm saying. Like if you saw Nightmare in the Dark running side by side with Vengeance Hunters, you'd automatically know which one's the classic game, which one's the modern game, is what I'm trying to say.
That's fair.
But I really appreciate this, because this is exactly what this podcast is about. It's about what a machine can squeeze out of what the developers can squeeze out of an old machine. And to me, I agree completely with the Shredder's Revenge for sure. Sorry, but also I had like a deja vu in some ways of Capcom versus SNK, the sort of graphics and the sort of art style as well. So it did give me those more modern vibes. Those I think were more on the CPS2, weren't they, rather than on the Neo Geo.
Here's another thing too. You guys also have not played this on a proper CRT on a Neo Geo.
That's your fault. It's your fault.
Where I have, and I switched between a bunch of other Neo Geo games and ours. And so that will definitely help link your brain up to being like, oh, this is a Neo Geo game because I'm playing it on a Neo Geo, and oh, the graphics, because the graphics they look really clean and pristine. But go look at, like, that's why it looks like Shredder's Revenge, is because it looks clean and pristine. You go back and you play it on a CRT, and then all of a sudden things start like, oh, that makes sense. Oh, we have what is it on the Sony that I have behind, like the shadow mask, like the aperture grill shadow mask, and like stuff like that. All of a sudden it's like, oh, that doesn't look so modern anymore. And a lot of people haven't seen that. They've only seen, YouTube video and whatnot. And as clean as it is, I don't even think we have a video showing any of the filters that are in the modern version of the game that tries to emulate that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm not saying, like I said, not saying you're wrong, and we don't hide the fact that like one of the main pixel artists, he worked on Shredder's Revenge. That's one of his arts. That's one of his art styles that he likes.
But it's funny because when you mentioned that, I was like, "Oh, that makes so much sense."
Yeah, no, and it does. And like I said, we're not trying to hide from it or anything. I think it's great, but I do have to I always have to bring this up with people. Is like, you always think of the Neo Geo fighting games and those couple of guys who did the art for all those, and they did that for like the late '90s through the early 2000s. It was only the same people, so everybody associates it, and they forget about, like, go look at Metal Slug. Like, give it a good look, and it's like, oh, that actually looks pretty cartoony, and that's pretty, like, that looks like Saturday Morning, or like a ton of other games that are on the platform. People always forget about that, but it's just one of those things where I'm like, yeah, no, I get it when people think that, but at the same time, it's like, think about the other stuff, and then also the CRT thing. Like, once you play it on a Neo Geo, it'll make a little bit more sense.
Admittedly, part of the issue with comparing it to Metal Slug is that Metal Slug has an art style that is just specific to Metal Slug, so it's kind of hard to envision Metal Slug's art style in anything other than Metal Slug. I guess it's too associated with that one specific series, I guess.
Yeah, no, I get that, but I wouldn't say Vengeance Hunter looks exactly like Shredder's Revenge. I was like,
different.
We have huge characters, and like, it's nothing. We don't even have a similar. I've played through that game a couple of times. Like, we don't even have stages that are similar.
Yeah, for me, I didn't have this sort of dichotomy like Sticker, and I just thought, oh, this is really more modern and is exactly what I want out of a modern game for an old platform. Though I do see the point, to be honest. Another impression I had was also, as I was moving on and I realized how many moves characters had, I was a bit split in my, like, I was like, oh, is this like a fighting game or is it like a beat 'em up? And that caught me a bit off guard, and I really didn't know how I should play it, if that makes sense.
No, that's the other problem that is actually really hard to solve, because we don't have a modern engine that makes it real easy to go basically have like, here's a tutorial of how to play. All we have is those tracks. So you let the beginning crawl play out. Actually, you can just hit a button and get through it. And then within a few seconds, an attract will play. And then you can kind of see how the game plays, which is just me playing. And you can see how the game plays that way. And that's the only thing we can communicate to the player. We don't have a good way to do a tutorial, or we didn't actually scope in a tutorial or anything like that. However, the game was, like I said earlier, was designed for somebody who never wants to use the dash, who never wants to double tap and do dash. Was designed for just somebody to go through and hit A all through the game pretty much. Maybe jump every once in a while and then hit A again, or A a couple more times as they figure stuff out. Your signature move definitely helps, but you don't even have to use that most of the time, at least not on the easy and normal difficulties. Normal, you'll run into problems in stage 4 or 5 probably, because it does ramp up difficulty there. So you'll actually have to know the game, know the enemies to get around them still. But yeah, that is actually something that it's not a fighting game. In fact, we kept the combos universal. So if you know like the one cut like AAAA, and then there's like AAAB, all three characters have that. They're universal. So you know one, you know all of them. What separates them is the signature move. That changes up their gameplay style quite a little bit, which makes everything else, once you learn that, pretty easy. So that's, yeah, I can see that as being a little, I guess, overwhelming a little bit if somebody thinks they have to do that, but you don't. It is not designed for you to require. Now, if you play on vengeance mode, hard mode, you're going to need to know that stuff.
Yeah.
You're absolutely going to need to know that stuff. It is pretty rough, but it's designed for people who really want that challenge, or for experienced beat 'em up guys. Like I've got a couple of guys, a local guy who's a speedrunner. I got a couple guys online that are like super well known in the whole beat 'em up genre, and they've played through the game, and I got feedback from them, and they're like, yeah, this is tough, but this is perfect, keep it. In regards to like, you know, the difficulty and stuff like that. So early on, like I said, easy, pretty much anybody can walk through it. I've watched kids walk through it on easy mode in two-player co-op, pretty much all through the game. So it's definitely set up for anybody to get through. So hopefully it won't be too overwhelming, but the options are there for people who want to learn. But they don't have to. I'm not forcing them to.
Yeah. I completely agree on. That's sort of how I played it. Before we move on to the gameplay and stuff, I just wanted to spend like a minute or so just to express how beautifully the graphics were designed, and how when I saw it, I was really like screaming like, "Oh, this is not a homebrew, this is professional."
Yeah,
because I love all the details, and I'll mention some that I did notice. So I played this with my son, and we alternate, and I took notes when he was playing. And one of the things I noticed, like there's obviously besides the intro, which is all animated, but also when you're moving through the world, there are little details that are, I mean, hang on, where do I start here? Because there's a lot of details, and the backgrounds, I never noticed, maybe I'm wrong, I never noticed a repeat in the pattern, or very little of that. And there's always like details like the car in the middle of the woods, it's just left there. And then there's like foreground elements like the tree stump and the leaves that are moving around. And I thought that was
There's
really
even
nice.
little birds that I spent a week placing. Birds, rats, all kinds of stuff that are animated that run in particular directions. But also run and get out of the way so then they don't tax the CPU, because the Neo Geo CPU is not super powerful. So,
No.
But yes, no, appreciate that.
Yeah, so I felt when I first booted it up, besides obviously the logo that I found quite funny. In fact, one of the questions I had was, have you used all the 330 megs?
Oh yeah, well yeah, we kind of, I think we put some sort of stupid number on there. Like it's unrealistic, but yeah, like I think actually we're about the same size. I know this is kind of not what you're asking, but we're about the same size as like King of Fighters 96 or 97, something like that, which is one of the bigger games. I think we're in the top like 10 or whatever biggest in regards to size. I can't remember how many mega that whatever number they use is, but it's pretty large. And we don't have any filler, no repeating. There's no padding the stats there, so to speak. It is all from the game.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Diego, what was your impression when you booted it up?
No impression, because I went straight into playing the game. I just.
But you certainly have noticed.
Yeah,
I don't got time for those cutscenes. I gotta press anything. Hey man, that's why we have it set up to be able to mash through it. Some people hate that stuff.
That wants to wait through the game.
Yeah,
got me in that category.
No.
I have to say that
our main pixel artist is exactly that guy.
Generally speaking, beat 'em ups have never really been my cup of tea. So, I think let's leave the personal comments later on. But so I had to approach the game like in a more arcade mode, not too deep. I don't have the not the skills, but maybe the mindset of figuring out the combos typically. That just generally speaking, beat 'em ups and fighting games I've never been really good at that, because I just want to like beat the evil guys soon enough and not really delve into all the possible combinations of movement. So and that also made me just jump straight into the game. I of course I watched the intro and the first time and read all the text about the background story the first time, but just once.
Yeah, the story is very simple, isn't it? So what I've seen is like the three of them, or if I recall correctly, something they get kidnapped in the village, or the house is on fire. They just seek revenge, hence the vengeance hunters, I guess. And there are these people in suits and glasses, and they must go after them. And then obviously you uncover more as you go on in regards to that. So I didn't spend too much on the story. I don't know if there's anything that you would like to add, Mike, about that.
No, it was basically meant to be, I won't say a throwaway story, but just fun. Just something that's just sitting there that somebody, you can either skip it or you can check it out. We actually did spend more time on the story. In fact, that's actually part of what had us delay the game to later this year. Is we added a couple people to the team that kind of increased scope, which allowed us to actually add some story. Fun fact, the story is actually written by one of the guys that work at Bungie and works on Destiny, worked on Halo story.
Wow.
Yeah, he wrote the whole thing for us, and it was literally just pitched to him as like, hey, here's the premise, like you kind of pointed out earlier, is like going, yeah, it's just a bunch of people, they're upset by being oppressed, they don't really know what's going on, but they're done with it, they're out to get their vengeance and they want to move on. And they find out as you progress through the game, they uncover more and more of like who is actually the one that has caused the post-apocalyptic world that you play through. You find out like who is actually involved in that, who's to, like who do you need to take your vengeance out on. And we had a lot of fun with that, because not only does the story change based on which character, or not the story change, but like the dialogue changes entirely based on which character you pick. But the in-game dialogue, when you come across certain sections in-game, will change not only based on who you're playing as, but also by your difficulty. So people who actually want to get into the story and the lore can play the game on different difficulties with different characters and get more of that. However, you can skip it entirely too. So it's there, and the artwork is great. We have this guy named Kersey who does amazing artwork. He specializes actually in SNK style work. Like he'll take some modern, like I recently saw Final Fantasy VII, like a couple of characters from that redone in like the SNK signature like fighting game artwork style.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's amazing. So if you go look him up on Twitter, he's insane. He's really good, really great guy to work with. But he did all of our cutscenes, and yeah, so that was part of the reason why the game was a little later than it should have been, is we wanted to get that stuff in. And it's another quality thing, like you brought up earlier. It's like this isn't a home run. It's like we were going for Neo Geo era, not only just like get a game out during the era that's approved, but like something that could be considered, hopefully near the top. Like when it comes to like, everything, our sound, like production, details, things like that. That's what we're going for. And yeah, that's...
Yeah.
So yeah, as far as the story goes, that's pretty much it. That's it's fun. It's fun, but you can skip it.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. That's to say, I didn't pay I did read it, but I didn't pay too much attention to it. However, I'd like to move on to the gameplay mechanics. I don't know, St1ka, if you have anything to add before we move over to that.
No, I think I'm good for now, at least. Yeah, so yeah, we can move on.
Yeah. Okay. So. So, as you mentioned before, you can choose 3 characters, and I've played the Golem mainly, and I tried Looney as well with a Bionic Punch. I found the differences quite interesting, as in I could nearly cheese the level with the Looney and his punch, because it's a ranged attack in all effects, so you can actually stay quite secure and not be overwhelmed with the mobs. And then I tried the Golem. So I like the variety of them and how different play styles, for what I've seen obviously, comes down to. I like the combo counters, and one thing that I did like, I don't remember now, but I don't think they had it back in the days. Like, for me, let's say the main comparison that I had was Final Fight, because everyone's played Final Fight, and I finished it a lot more times than I care to admit. But I don't recall that you could juggle enemies as they were falling down, and this was a really nice touch that I thought, because there's several things I want to say, but let's just focus on that. So once you send an enemy flying, you can keep punching him, and I didn't really notice, unless I got the timing wrong, I didn't notice an end to this. Is that the case? Or
No, it absolutely does have an end.
Oh, it does.
You can only relaunch twice. And you can only like if there's a wall splat or something like that. The second time you do it, they'll go off screen. A lot of enemies. Yeah, a lot of enemies will end up dying. Yeah, you cannot. There is one infinite you can do in the game in a very specific situation against a character I won't mention. People find that, and we don't really have a fix for that. But it's so like, who cares? We're not going to fix it. But yeah, there is actually protections built in. Like I mentioned earlier with Candy with her cartwheel, you can only relaunch twice. She can also do an instant uppercut that you can only launch with twice. You try to do it again, it'll go through them, it'll do a little bit of damage, and they'll hit the ground. So there is actually quite a few mechanics like that. However, a lot of enemies will just simply die. If you're good enough to keep them in the air long enough, it's balanced to basically kill the enemy as they're coming down, or as you do that last hit. Almost all of them are balanced like that.
Right.
Depending on the HP. Now, there's some enemies that you can't even do anything with in the air. We call them heavies. Things like that. But the juggles definitely do end. One thing that is also that makes it seem like you can juggle longer than normal is you can kill like dead enemies. You can keep going because it's fun.
Yeah,
entirely because
inflicts more damage to the corpse.
You can do something really cool, like some of the combo videos that I've made while staying within the constraints of the combo system, because I know exactly where they'll fall off. You can get real stylish, and that's when I tell people, is like, this game kind of is more patterned after Marvel vs. Capcom. It's patterned more after Bayonetta, more after Devil May Cry. Think of it more as like a 2D version of those 3D action games where you're just your main character is meant to be overpowered. Like, you're supposed to feel strong. However, while you're doing all that stuff, you can still get hit. You can still get knocked on your butt. Like, things will happen if you do not pay attention. You feel strong and it gives you confidence, and then you get hit. And so that's where you have to watch out.
It is kind of funny, though, because we were talking about the juggles. And at first, when I started playing the game, I was treating it like any other beat 'em up. So, walk forward, combo, screaming at the fact there were no throws, that sort of thing. And once I realized that, like, not only could you juggle enemies, but like you could jump in the air and extend your combo while you're in the air, it kind of clicked with me. Which, like, if I were to describe this game to someone, it's like a cross between a classic beat 'em up and a Devil May Cry style combat, if that makes sense.
That's exactly how I described it.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
That is exactly that's how I designed it. That's how I describe it. It does not click with some people, because there's so many people that have the beat 'em up mindset like ingrained in them.
It took me a while to shift the mindset to what we're trying to do. Like, once I finally realized you were like, oh, this is like Devil May Cry. That's when it finally clicked, and I completely changed my gameplay style.
And then you think of it like I didn't get to talk about Looney earlier, but his signature move is that fist missile. I call it a missile, and think of him more as like Bionic Commando or Dalzim or somebody like that, where you knock somebody up in the air and they juggle and they go up in the air, and then when he does, you can jump up after him, do a 3-punch like combo that then will bounce them off the edge of the screen over to the other side of the screen. Well, what can you do with that? Well, he's got this missile that's long range that you can launch. So you turn around and you fire your missile either straight or at a diagonal. It knocks the enemy back up. They hit the wall. You run across the screen and you continue the combo. And then he can also knock enemies from the ground. Like, if they're on the ground and you shoot that missile straight down, it pops them back up. Then what can you do? You can keep juggling with it. So that's his gameplay loop. It's very much like, say, Dante with his guns. You can keep combo extending. You can keep doing extensions with Looney. He's definitely the hardest character for most people to get a hold of. A lot of people will sit and shoot. I think you mentioned you just like, oh, I cheesed the level by, shooting missiles. You can't really do that because it only does like 3 damage. And most enemies have like 40 or 50 damage. So you're going to run out of time. You're going to lose a life if you keep doing that. It's intentionally low damage. Early level stuff, you can get away with it. Later level, not so much. And it's also kind of boring. But it is be more combo extension, stuff like that, because your real damage is in your punches, in the juggles, in the air stuff, and being stylish, like looking good while you're doing it. And when you finally figure that out, I've had people when it clicks for them, they're just like, this is insane. And I love hearing that. However, like I said, there is the beat 'em up mindset of like, this is how you play a beat 'em up. And some people even get angry because it doesn't play like a normal beat 'em up. I won't say angry, but they're just like, I did this just sucks. I don't like this. It doesn't do the same thing. I was like, but it kind of does. You can press just one button and do a combo just like you would in any other beat 'em up. You just get more options with this. So I don't know. I don't have much beyond that, but that's kind of yeah. So as far as like, juggles and stuff like that, that's kind of where the game is designed. It's literally meant to be beat 'em up crossed with Devil May Cry.
I will admit I spent more time playing with what's her name? The
Candy.
female. Sorry,
Candy.
Yes, Candy. I basically mained Candy as I played it. I thought the dude. I'm terrible with names. Sorry, I'm really terrible with names. But I wasn't a big fan of the guy. Like, for whatever reason, his speed just did not click with me. Like when I threw enemies into the air, I just could not get the timing right to juggle them. Like, it rarely happened. With Candy, it was way easier.
Here's the funny thing is one thing I'm definitely going to do, or actually have already done. In fact, I even recorded the videos and uploaded them. They're live on Steam right now. They're essentially like the attract modes that we have in the game, but it's shorter. It's 20, 25, 30-second gameplay snips of basically maximum output for all 3 characters.
Oh, that's awesome.
And those are now live on the Steam page to go look at. And we'll put that out there and stuff too, because that is definitely a worry. Is people aren't going to know how to play, because I mentioned earlier, we don't have a way to put in a proper tutorial. And, and some people are going to come in with the preconceived notion of how a beat 'em up should be. Yeah. And some of them won't even want to, like, they'll want to play a beat 'em up, and then they'll come and find out, like, this isn't exactly what they want. Usually it's the throws that they mention. Like, is there even throws in this game? And I'm like, yes, there is, but it's character specific, like that was one of the things that we decided to do to stand out, to not be every other game in the genre while still retaining fun or making it fun or trying to. Hopefully.
I don't know. Do you have anything to add, Diego, in terms of the gameplay mechanics? I have got another couple of things, but I just wondered.
Yeah, right. I also preferred Candy as a character. Well, actually, one of the reasons was I just like her animations more than everybody else. And I kind of she looked more cool to me, and I like the style of fighting that I ended up using with her. But let's keep in mind that here I represent people who are not capable of getting to that really good hardcore level of playing these kind of games. So I found Golem to be the easier one to play, meaning that I soon stuck with one simple tactic, using a lot that throw of enemies, and it just worked, and it seemed quite easy to use that a lot to me to progress in the game. But I really liked how with Candy I didn't have a signature move that was immediately an attack, and so I had to move around all the time with her, and that felt much better, like less effective. It was a bit more difficult, especially with some of the boss fights. They killed me, and then I continued, and I chose Golem with the next credit, and then I beat them much more easily than with Candy. But Candy was my favorite because of the mobility, and it really felt much better to me. There is one thing I generally didn't like in the playability, and that was the timer.
Ah.
First of all, it actually took me a while to realize there was a timer. I didn't notice.
You're still playing a car. You're still playing an arcade game.
Yeah.
Yeah, but sometimes I just died suddenly, and I thought it was because I was maybe hit by someone in the melee and didn't notice who it was. But then I noticed that the energy I was losing at once was a bit too much. So then I figured it was timeout. And
we actually added recently a hurry up, basically a big message to tell people, because people were like being like, "Why did I just suddenly die?" They would report it as a bug.
oh yeah, I should point out. Yeah, I should point out
big thing that says "hurry up."
I should point out to the listener that I have played an earlier version of it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because
yes.
you never did get the Steam version. You were playing an extremely out of date version. So
okay, so maybe a lot of that.
A lot of the details we've been talking about in here is not in that version. So yeah.
Well, okay. But yeah, with regard to the timer, I think I kind of enjoyed more with the candy, especially the idea of sometimes just move around, like taunting the enemies, not really killing them, and having them move wherever I wanted to, so that then I could just start some more devastating attack with them.
Yep,
and,
start clumping them up.
But then it's time consuming, and it didn't help. But I like that somehow, that feeling of feeling more in control of the battlefield, that I could just avoid all their attacks, especially when there is lots of guys that have range attacks. I like being able to navigate around them, like teasing them. It made me feel like I was owing the fight, so to speak. But then I noticed that I was losing lives because of the timer. I was too slow.
Yeah, and also a lot of that stuff, the timer stuff, hadn't been balanced at all ever. It was all default. And the version that you played, like there were certain areas where we'd reset, like during boss fights specifically, we would reset the timer like each phase, and then sometimes even in between phases, because we don't want that timer to be if somebody's playing something really slow, we didn't want to penalize them. So the version you played, this is a little bit more hardcore in that area. You got to be faster. Right. We did change that more recently since that version that I had posted for you guys to play a while back.
But anyway, I had a lot of fun with the mechanics also that I mentioned before, that these environmental things work two ways. So
yeah, that is great.
Yeah, there are these dangers, like what was that? I think at level 2 there's some far off explosion in the background, and then suddenly there's flaming corpses falling on the ground.
Yeah,
and
that's awesome.
That's one of those like, hey guys, wouldn't it be a fun idea if, like one of those like brainstorming sessions when you're developing a game, it's like, hey, it would be fun, have something explode in the background, and then like you just get stuff falling all over the place. And yeah, stuff like that. We wanted, I always called them set pieces. I wanted every level to have a few set pieces, and that was one of them.
Yeah, that was really great, and it was nice also to notice that these wouldn't just hurt the player characters; they could also hurt the others. So there's a way to get these to your advantage, and there's plenty of these things in the game. I really liked when I figured out how to use them, and I really like the enemies, I have to say. Well, everybody has already said that, graphically speaking, the game is stunning. The artwork for every enemy, in addition to the player character, it's really nice. But each enemy works differently, so it was very good to learn how to deal with every kind of enemies. Like, I know this guy, I shouldn't stay in front of it ever, because pretty soon it's gonna shoot with his ranged weapon, or this guy is gonna explode. So I have to try to keep my distance, and it was really nice to have this variety, in my opinion. So that's very strong point of this game.
I've mentioned pet peeves of mine. I pretty much designed a lot of the gameplay around pet peeves. And one of mine was that, like, the recycling enemies way too much and then not having any variety in those same enemies. Because you're going to have to, because 2D pixel art takes forever.
Yeah.
It's a very arduous process if you do it right. And so obviously you're going to have to reuse some stuff, but make them different. Give them a different color. Give them a different moveset. Give them different speeds. Give them different HP values. Give them different, like, kind of almost like signature attacks.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I definitely tried to do. So I appreciate you pointing that out, because that was very much something that I did not like in a lot of these games that just throw the same enemy, clone enemy after clone enemy right after you. This tried to vary it up, so I appreciate somebody noticing that.
I have a question. How many on-screen enemies does the game allow at the same time?
So I'm sure it'll probably feel like a lot more, but we keep it to 4.
Really?
I actually have this thing where every beat 'em up I play, I count how many enemies I see on screen. And yeah, my max, the max I ever saw was 4, but I also didn't finish the game, so I assumed there would be a larger number towards the end. So that's actually
nope. It is, so the way we do it, or the way I pulled it off, is because the Neo Geo just has a 12 megahertz processor. Mm-hmm. It's not the most, like, everybody thinks the Neo Geo is a huge powerhouse, and it was in 1989. But mid 1995 or like 1995 or so, it's pretty weak compared to every other, like, arcade stuff that's out. And so that's one of the limits. Its biggest thing that it always had was direct access to fast ROM. So you can put these crazy images on screen very quickly, so you can use a lot of space and get them out there pretty quickly, but it doesn't have anything else. And one of the limitations is definitely a CPU. And in a beat 'em up that has a lot of different like hit checks, or basically checks, the CPU has to basically, you know, draw the screen and do everything, and it does all these different checks. In a fighting game, it's really easy. So you can go real crazy in a fighting game with a lot of stuff, and you're going to have plenty of horsepower left over. In a beat 'em up, there's a good reason why there's not too many beat 'em ups on a Neo Geo. And this is part of it. And we optimized the game around 2-player as well, like keeping it, because another thing that's famous about the Neo Geo is the frame rate dips constantly. On an actual Neo Geo in 2-player, you'll see a little bit of screen corruption every once in a while, and maybe some frame dips, but you're almost always going to have 60 frames per second. And we did that because we kept the amount of stuff on screen very consistent. So the max you'll see on screen usually is going to be 4 enemies. Every once in a while, you might see 5.
So you're telling me as
but
well
not
that
very often.
if you play in 2 players, you don't diminish the count of the enemies. You still try and keep 4.
We actually increase it.
Okay.
So, for example, in the first stage, there's this fence that you see some enemies that are attacking, and then the fence explodes, and then the enemies come walk at you. In 1-player mode, there's only 3 enemies there. In 2-player mode, there's 4. So I've got the game, and then also 2-player, and I can get into this later too, but there is differences. 2-player also does a bunch of other stuff, but you get extra enemies, extra HP on those enemies, like more waves. Instead of getting more enemies during the same wave, you'll get more enemies popping up. So if you kill one, I can set it to where another one will pop up immediately. So you'll always have like 4 on screen. So it'll feel like there's more than there really is.
Yeah.
So that's I guess one way we handle that is we keep it at 4 enemies max on screen, and that keeps the Neo Geo from breaking.
That's great. I really, obviously I'm unaware of this technical stuff as I'm playing. But to get back to the gameplay, I did notice some other things that caught my attention as I was battling my way through these waves. One of the things that used to happen in the final fight, again, I have a bad memory. I'm quite well known for that. But if you had an enemy that coming behind you, you couldn't hit him. While here, it seems like I used a golem and I could like give him punches, so I could attack behind.
I love that so much about this game. Not gonna lie, I love
that's from
that.
Streets of Rage. I think either introduced it or popularized that, and we have that. You press back and you press the strong attack, and you do a back attack.
That's
but it's
great.
way easier to pull off here.
Yeah, it is. I made sure it was easy to pull off. I always forget it's there.
Yeah, right.
I always forget it's there, but it's
You're
a good
supposed
way
hit
to
two
interrupt
buttons at the same time. You're not going to do that.
Yeah, it's a good way to like interrupt an enemy that's right behind you because it'll cancel out of almost any other animation, and you can just immediately go into it and stop an enemy behind you. But you got to know it's there. There's a lot of little mechanics. Speaking of that, there's a lot of little mechanics in the game that you might not know is actually there. That is one of them. Another one is if you press the jump button or the light punch button as you hit the ground, you get knocked over, you'll pop back up real fast.
Oh,
Just like in fighting games. Most people will never, ever notice that. But that is a mechanic that is there. And another one is the fact that you can, a lot of these games, you have a static jump arc. You can control your jump in this game. You can go left, right. You can kind of cover that a little bit.
Yes,
you can also make your jump shorter or you can make it taller by holding in the button, much like a platformer. That is also fairly, I won't say unique to beat 'em ups, but definitely kind of unique to the era. So you get a lot more player control. You get a lot more feeling of control over your character compared to most beat 'em ups. And there's also another thing a lot of people might not notice is animation canceling. You can get out of a lot of animations by doing something else. So if you want to jump out of like your last hit, you can jump out of it real fast. Like you don't have to wait for the animation to fully play out and then come back in with the recovery frames. You can cancel out. Most games of the year didn't do that.
Like, this is good user experience because I would not like to have to wait for the animation to finish. So I think it just went over my head.
When they do that.
You are? Sorry?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was like, I hate that in games when you have to wait for the whole animation to play out.
Yeah. Other things, desperate move. What did you think about the desperate move, Sticker? Did you use it?
I didn't use it much, to be honest. To be perfectly honest, I mostly forgot they were there while I play them.
I always hated them, so I never used them. We have them,
okay, so
even in my own gameplay, I read. However, speaking of mechanics that you don't normally get, that desperation move does double damage to enemies that are in the air. So anybody who wants to speed run the game and wants to run a little risk reward, that is there for them.
I mean, I get it, but I spent more time just using the English is failing me. The weekend strong attacks. And
that sounded like a weekend.
It's
fine.
I have stronger attacks on the weekend.
Yes, the weekend strong attacks, and I completely forgot. For most of my playthroughs, I completely forgot the desperation moves were there. I just kept doing different combos.
Yeah, I only use them when I get grabbed. There's a few enemies in the game that'll grab you, and you can get out of those moves with it. Or if I'm trying to speed run something, like I've got like the stage 2 boss, I have a speed run video of it, and that desperation move features heavily in that.
I also knew they were there, and I didn't really grasp the concept immediately. And I saw my health go down, then I saw it go up. Another time it didn't go up. So it took me a while to kind of click on how the mechanics of that work. But once I understood it, I always I try to avoid it because probably, again, it's a skill thing and I usually get hit. So it was nearly always risk, not reward, really, in a way. So I kind of did not use them as much as I should have probably.
No, like I said, I actually rarely use them in my own gameplay. I did not like the mechanic at all growing up. Like Final Fight, like say you're playing Hagar, right? You do that spinning, you do that like spinning move, and that takes away your HP, and you can't get that HP back.
Yeah.
So you're basically just feeding quarters to the guys who designed the game, because that's why that mechanic takes away HP, is just to steal your quarters. And this game wasn't designed to steal your quarters, so I'm like, I want that HP back. So now if you do want to use it, some people love using that, like love just spamming that. Well, they got a way to get their HP back if they want to do that. So
yeah, I think we're on the same page with the quarter stealing. I did not enjoy that with Haggard, but I think it works well for the people who wants to use it. It's a bit of a trade-off sort of thing, and they can probably get away if they're more skilled than I am. Then they probably can get away with recuperating or some of the energy at least. But I never found myself in that situation. I don't know if there's anything else in terms of mechanics that I can think of here. Oh yes, there is another thing that I did notice. I noticed as well that I couldn't hit enemies, and correct me if I'm wrong. Like especially in the first level, I noticed this where there's some of the enemies, and we'll talk about the enemies in a little while as well, because there's a great variety and they all do different things, and there's some of them that are really amazing, I think. But when in the first level there are some enemies like Dalsim that they shoot their they prolong their arms and hit you from a distance, and I did notice that I could not hit them when they were doing the animation. Is that right?
That is correct. You probably also noticed that they got a yellow shield around them when they did it.
No, I don't remember that.
I didn't notice that.
Okay, so in the game there is a mechanic where there's a shielding mechanic that can happen with some moves, and the enemy that you just spoke of is probably like the female zombie who has this dog on her arm, and she can extend it out and hit you with it. And she has a shield, and that shield is meant to also the real fat zombies, they can puke. They also get a shield on that move. So what that does is it actually, and again, this goes back to there's no tutorial to tell people this, they just have to figure it out. The strong move breaks that shield. So if you're smashing your punch button into them, they're just going to hit you. But if you use your other attack, you break their shield, and that plays in heavily later in the game.
Okay, I didn't get later in the game, but I did notice that I had to vary my attacks to break those shields, because it took me a while to get there.
Yeah, and you'll see an animation, you'll hear a glass shattering, like you'll know that you did it. And so there is a yellow shield that a lot of enemies and a lot of bosses will have on some of their attacks. And then there's also a red shield. This is kind of goes back to fighting games with like super armor and hyper armor, where there's one kind of shield that you can break easily, and then there's another kind of shield you just can't break. The red shield, it just means get the heck out of the way. Like you can't break it, get out of the way. But the yellow shield means you can either do a dash punch, or you can use one of your strong punches, or one of the combos that incorporates one of the strong punches, and that will break the shield.
Yeah, I think I didn't notice all these subtleties. I think at a certain point, I remembered that as soon as one of the enemies were going to do one of their big moves, so the puking or the extension, I would have to just move out of the way. Or the exploding. I would just have to get out of the way. I do have more to say, but it's more in regards to the enemies. I think we can go on. I don't know. Anyone else got anything to add to that, to the gameplay mechanics? I stopped it here. Maybe it's not as encompassing.
I think I'm good. Well, actually, there is one thing. It's more of a complaint, or at least a request.
Oh, okay.
Please add more weapons during the levels. I maybe it's again the Final Fight or Streets of Rage fan in me, but there were not enough weapons. Like, they were really fun. I wish they came more often.
Do you want me to talk about that? I can.
Yes.
You mean the add-ons?
Let me just back.
You mean the add-ons?
Yes.
Yes.
The weapons that you can pick up, and then for a while they stay.
Yeah, like they did not come often enough for my taste, at least.
So I can give you the lore, the background on that if you guys want.
Yeah, I was about to ask if there was somewhat a nod to another game.
Actually, yes. You're about to hit on the point that I'm going to bring up.
Can I guess?
Yeah. Yes. Go ahead.
No, it's probably not it, but for some reason I found only 3. Is there only 3?
There is only 3 weapons.
It's kind
I'm
of
actually
a
super curious
and
what
a
game you had.
flamethrower and a machine gun.
Correct.
So I don't really know, but it made me think of the very old arcade game Green Beret, where you get exactly the same 3 special weapons: a bazooka, a flamethrower, and a machine gun. But
that is absolutely a coincidence.
Okay.
Yeah, no, actually, no. It is an idea that was literally stolen from another game, but it's actually from another 3D action game. Nier Automata. Have any of you guys ever played?
Oh, I love that game so much.
The pods from Nier Automata that shoot different weapons. Now you think about it, you think about those weapons and how they hover over you. You kind of got an idea, and here's the reason for that. So we decided early on that we're thinking about putting in weapons, but then that required a ton of extra pixel art. And it would probably also change gameplay because we had a lot of gameplay with a lot of options. And we're like, well, if there's too many weapons, then it could kind of almost take away from the gameplay. So we're like, well, we'll maybe put in weapons later. And because at the time we didn't have a full-time pixel artist. Thomas was only part-time. He was only kind of contributing here and there. And later on, he came on full-time. And then later on, we're like, man, we still kind of want weapons, but it's like we would have to put in so much pixel art to account for all the weapons and then all the weapons hitting the enemies, all that stuff. And so I was like, wait a second, have you guys played Nier Automata? And a couple of them were like, yeah. And I was like, we could have it set up where it could even be part of the story because we have aliens, we have these suits guys, we have all kinds, we have technology in there. I was like, we could put that in where you essentially pick up these pods that can play as guns and they can just hover over your shoulder and we can do whatever we want with those. And we don't have to add any extra animation that was already there because it would have been super, super time consuming to do that. So we did a test run of that and we did that. And we actually ended up doing a machine gun because I really wanted that because I thought of like the old Dick Tracy game when an enemy gets shot, they just sort of stand there and they're like that. Yeah. And so we had that in the game. And we kind of wanted to do an ice one to freeze stuff. But again, that goes back to the art. We're a tiny indie dev team. We can't like spend months on art for just the guns. So we kept it simple. We did the flamethrower one. We actually went the extra mile and did unique flame for different enemy sizes and types. But then the rocket launcher and the machine gun didn't really require anything extra. Yeah. So that's actually the history behind that. So it was kind of a late in the day addition. Like I believe even our GDC build that we took didn't have guns or anything in it.
I think I was going to back St1ka's complaint as well. I was going to keep it till the end. I was going to say I really missed having a nice chain or like a throwable element such as a knife or something or like a pipe. I really miss that stuff from the early days, but I do understand why. Are you saying it might break the gameplay and so? But I would
you can't have everything too. You got to draw a line in the sand, like I said, a small indie team. So so I absolutely get it. People who have that complaint, I'm like, yeah, I get it, I understand. But we hopefully offer some other stuff that people will pick up on and will enjoy, and will kind of replace that feeling of loss with something that they gain.
Of course. And let's get the complaints out of the way. I'll just give you my last complaint is I think I really missed the shop. I'm a strong shop advocate, like I don't know why. But when I was collecting the money, I thought that money I could buy stuff. I don't know where that impression came from. Yeah,
there's that river. There's River City's Ransom, I think, that has shops where you can buy abilities, right?
Maybe not abilities. I was thinking again the weapons. I thought we didn't find any weapons because they were in the shop, and I could buy some weapons in the shop. But this shop did not exist, so I didn't know that, and that would have added the perfect level of depth. But then now again, talking to you, I understand the depth lies elsewhere in so many other different facets of the game that I did not notice, to be honest.
No, okay. It is fair to have. And the weapons, we also, here's another thing. With the weapons, you have to either make them really puny or make them just maybe as good or maybe barely better than your main attacks. Or you make them really strong and overpowered, but you don't put them in nearly as often. We went with option 2.
Understandable.
Yeah. And there is at least 2 weapons in every stage, and there's a couple stages that have more. So as you get later in the game, there's actually one area in particular, St1ka, that you will love. There are weapons everywhere.
Oh, good. Finally.
Yeah. So it's a secret area, but it's a big secret area. So
yeah. So let's move on to the enemies. So and the level design. So I did go through the stages, the swamp. There was this, it's all very. I like the journey. Let's say from the different areas and how you progress then to. Later on, I don't know if I should spoil this, but when you leave Earth, let's say, and I like the progression to it. I think I didn't notice a terrible increment in difficulty, but I did play on the easiest level. I didn't notice a substantial difficulty increase except from the not earthly levels. Those were really, they kept on beating me down, but still I managed to make it. So I think, and also there is like a nice different approach in the levels as well. Like I think in level 3 you change the perspective and it becomes isometric instead of linear. It is always linear, but it looks isometric. I don't know, this is a stylistic choice, I'm guessing, but I thought that broke it up quite nicely.
Yeah, in the city level where you kind of go down and right and don't go just left to right, which I wish we could have done more. We actually had, I believe, 10 levels scoped. But then everybody looked at that like, this is an arcade beat 'em up, and this will be like 3 hours. We can't do that. We also can't do it because it just take too long.
Yeah.
So we had to cut things down, and that was actually one of the things that did get cut down. Is we wanted to add more of those in, but we just didn't. Like a branching path, like in the first level in the forest, would have been great. Like watching you like walk through a forest like at a diagonal or something like that. We did get the waterfall where you can jump off that.
That is beautiful. I really love that you can jump off the waterfall. And it's also beautifully designed and animated. I really love the waterfall. That's level 1 though, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Love the Cyberpunk City as well. I think if I would have to decrete my favorite level, probably Cyberpunk City and the boss. And we'll get into the bosses very shortly. I don't know. Do you have any favorite levels so far, guys, that you've played?
I don't have a favorite level, but I have a favorite boss. But
Well, we'll get to the boss
try
in a
not
minute.
to spoil it, so I will not tell exactly.
Any favorite levels for you, St1ka?
Hard to say. The second level is the one where we start. Actually, there is something I mean to ask, and then I forgot. Sorry. The second level is the one where we start seeing like the mutants and the I don't know. Again, I'm terrible with names. The mutants and the natives, I guess what I'm going to call them, fighting each other, right?
Yeah. That's also a really nice touch.
Yeah, that's probably the one I enjoyed the most. Although I will admit I was a little disappointed that they didn't actually fight each other when we approached them. But I also assume that's because of the sprite limit or the.
It's actually more the Neo Geo. We talked about that too.
Yeah,
That's just a limit on. We don't have any sort of artificial intelligence. It's just would be some real basic scripting. We might have even did a proof of concept, and it just didn't look good. So it was better to just like have basically an animated scene of like say like the first level has your mutants fighting the natives. And, with the spears and the little guys that jump and stuff like that. And that's kind of how the game progresses. And then the second level, you start out more with mutants, but you have a little bit of the natives because you're still kind of near the forest level. Mm-hmm. But then as you go on, it's just the mutants. And then you go on further, and all of a sudden you start getting humans. And that's because you're getting closer to the city. And the city is the third stage. And the game progresses like that. Like as you go through the level, it kind of like phases out one type of enemy and goes into the next type that you're going to be fighting, and so on and so forth, all the way to the end of the game. That was a conscious design choice.
I really like how that stage was designed. Not because of the enemies, as a lot of them were already in the previous level, but it felt alive. Like it felt like really well designed. The progression of that stage. I really enjoyed it.
Same. So I did like the progression. I did like the slow phasing out of the enemies as well. But you do find, let's say, previous enemies very, very later on in the game as well, for a reason that makes sense. So that was quite a surprise. And talking about enemies now, I really, really enjoyed the enemies, all of them. Like they were difficult, some of them. They were really all well animated. They have their own moves. And one thing I really, 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 really loved is that some of them attack you and then like say, "Oh, I can't do anything else. I'll take my head off. I'll throw it. I'll die within that move." So self-sacrifice and then go. I really love that.
If I had to pick a favorite move in the game, it's from those zombies that like get low HP and then they just pull their own head off and throw it at you.
Yeah, or the exploding enemies as well. That basically you don't have to fight them because they basically die by themselves.
And it's so fun setting up traps for other enemies with those exploding enemies. You can just basically have them run over to a group of enemies, and then everything goes everywhere.
Oh,
And I love that. Yeah, I will set up traps for that. If like a big exploding fat guy comes out, and I'm like, all right, cool. Well, I've got all these enemies around me. I'm gonna let him hit all of them.
Oh,
and
okay, I see.
And then I jump out of it, and then I can continue an aerial combo off of one of the explosions that came out of that. And so
there is so much depth in the combat that is kind of really, you need to explore that in.
If you can think about it, you can probably do it in the game. That's kind of like, I mean, within reasons, within limits. I'm not trying to oversell it or anything like that. But if you think you can press a button and be like, I could probably hit that guy again and then maybe go into a throw, guess what? You probably can.
Nice.
I will say though that people like who won't get the game, or like they're not going to get the combo system you're going for. I predict a lot of negative reviews on Steam from people who are just going to treat it like any other Final Fight game, basically. Because if you play it like that, like I did at first, the enemies are going to feel really spongy.
Yep, that's exactly what's going to happen. Like,
and I get it's intentional. It's meant to punish the player for playing it like Final Fight, right?
Yeah, well, that's the funny thing is like it's not even that. It's like because you can play it like Final Fight. Final Fight basically has just one button. Well, it has like 3 buttons, but like you're only going to use like the one button. You won't even jump very often in Final Fight. And you're just going to press that one button. You can press that one button, and you can press it pretty fast and do some serious damage. You can just have basic in fighting games. It's called footsies. Like your movement of your character, setting up other enemies or people to just go into a trap. That's footsies. The game, like, as long as you got a basic concept of that, you can play the game just with one button. But yes, I do think you're right. I've even told, like, basically the team was like, with the way everything's set up, I am going to hope for like a 7 out of 10 because we're going to have a lot of reviews that are going to be exactly like that. Like, I don't get it. Or they're going to be people who pick Looney, who's the hardest character, by the way. And all they're going to do is spam that missile thing and it does no damage. And they're just going to be like, this is terrible. I hate this. This is so slow and boring. And they'll never do anything else. And they'll uninstall the game.
So, like, what about the during that, when you start the game, you have like that tutorial section, right?
We don't have a tutorial. We have the attracts that kind of shows.
Yeah, the attract. Sorry.
Yeah.
Is there no way of like showing that you're supposed to do like aerial moves and juggles and whatnot? Because I think the game is great. I think you're gonna suffer because a lot of people are not gonna get it, especially like reviewers who clearly haven't played it, who are probably too young to have grown up during the beat 'em up boom. So. It's just trying to help you out, I guess.
It's actually the older people.
I would have said so too. Yeah,
I've had a lot of people play test the game because I have intentionally had people. Probably about 30 or 35 people have probably played this and even completed it so far from a different range of ages. And I've also taken it to 2 different shows and letting people play and talk to them and watch them play. I've watched kids play. I've watched kids play in co-op, stuff like that. So I kind of got an idea of where it is. Most of the kids immediately, they have no preconceived notion on how to play. So they will oh, I can jump. Okay, I can jump and I can press this button. Oh, I can do this. Where some older person who has the preconceived notion of like, this is what a beat 'em up is. And they will never, in fact, they will even get angry that they have to do something different than what they had to do when they played Streets of Rage, 35 years ago. Yeah, I have ran into that multiple times. And so I'm just like, this is the price of making a Neo Geo game that is an arcade game where you can't just handhold people. People make fun of the tutorials in games all the time. There's a reason they exist, and it's exactly for this reason. And we can't do much about it. I know you're trying to help me on that. And I'm like,
I'm a defender of the yellow paint on video games. So
see, I don't mind it as long as it's not too much or it's optional. It's again also rolls back to like we're an indie team. I would love to make like a tutorial stage that literally says like, do this, now do this, or even a practice mode stage, which we kind of have in our debug version where I would go and test combat moves, timing, stuff like that. But we didn't really have time to include it in the actual game that actually worked in any sort of non-superficial way, like that handheld you a little bit. So people are just going to have to figure it out, which means we're probably going to get some negative reviews because people either don't want to spend the time to figure it out or don't want to. Like they're literally like, I don't like, this isn't what I signed up for. And so I'm expecting that.
Understandable.
Yeah. So I just hope that the people who do enjoy it end up really enjoying it. Like I'm super jazzed to think about the kind of like videos I might even come find on YouTube, like the combo videos and the crazy stuff people will do and the timed attack and the speed
So
runs.
let me ask you this: would you like it if you had like an what's that Capcom beat 'em up for the PlayStation 2 called, the one that IGN trashed in a review and
The
then
Bouncer?
No, not that one. It's
Fighting Force or Fighting Force
no,
2?
it was trashed by IGN and now it's considered a classic.
That's shoot as God Hand. God Hand.
God Hand. Well, like, how would you feel like if that happened with your game? Like, the reviewers just trash it, and then like 10 years later, no, this is actually a masterpiece, and all the reviewers from back then were wrong, and we're gonna make memes.
We made this game for us. We know some people aren't going to quite grasp it, understand, or even care to. But if it becomes the new God Hand, I would take that. Give me that 3 out of 10 IGN. Because first off, I'll take it because IGN would just give us a lot of eyeballs on the game. So I'd love that. give me that 3 out of 10. But no, yeah, I totally get that. It's totally expected. So please, I don't want to be the God. I don't want to get the God Hand review. But if I did get that and people did figure it out over time, that's what's going to make me happy. I just want to make sure that we can hopefully do well and review well enough that we can sell enough to keep making games.
I get it.
I really wonder, did they ever remaster God Hand? Because no. I really want to play it, and I do have a PlayStation 2, but
I have played through it multiple times on a PlayStation 2, and that's the only place you can play it unless you can play it on backwards compatibility PlayStation 3, but that's it.
All right.
Is it expensive?
Yes,
it's very expensive. The US version is very expensive.
Oh.
The Japanese version is really cheap. I actually own the Japanese version that I got for like $20.
I'm pretty sure I bought my PS2 like a PAL version for like €20 maybe.
Yeah, the game is expensive, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know how rare the PAL version is. I just know the US version is extremely, or was at least extremely expensive.
Oh wait, you have it, St1ka?
Yeah, I do have it. I have a pretty substantial video game collection.
Okay, yeah, oh God. I always wanted to buy her God Hand, but I never did it because of the price.
Sadly, I would say like 8 years ago, you'd still be in time to buy PS2 games. Now I feel it's a little late, to be honest.
I've got a collection of PS2 games, the main ones, but God Hand was always out of hand. Hey.
Well, just then take my advice and buy PS3 and 360 games, because we're right at the edge of when their prices are flipping. I'm not even kidding. I've already seen like games that were super common for those systems now becoming really expensive.
Oh my God!
I've bought a few of the rare ones that are the good rare ones for exactly that reason. So because the price probably will go up. Maybe not as much, because we definitely went through a pricing bubble for retro video games, but. Some of those are just not going to be cheap when those systems become super nostalgic for a whole new generation. Like,
it's insane. Like, have you seen how much the Spider-Man goes on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 go for these days?
No.
It's insane. Like half of them go like for 3 digits now.
La Madonna, you really?
And the X-Men Wolverine game or whatever, also 3 digits. Like, suddenly the Marvel games are super expensive. And that's not even talking about stuff like that is actually rare, like 3D Dot Game Heroes. That's also expensive.
I have that one. And Folklore and Puppeteer.
And Folklore, yes.
Yeah. I have all those, and I bought them super cheap because I saw that coming years ago.
I've got a Puppeteer version,
and they're also good games. Like I don't buy crap games normally for like I don't buy collection for value.
You don't buy FIFA games.
No, I
FIFA
never,
92.
I've
FIFA
never
92.
even played a Euros football game.
You should play FIFA 98. That one's good.
I need to bring you
like
back.
Games.
Where are you going, guys? All right, we need to get back to Vengeance Hunters. What are you doing? All right, so one last thing I'm going to mention, another little touch that I really loved, besides obviously all the little touches that there are in there, the volcanoes, the geysers that shoot people in the air that Diego mentioned before. Also, the enemies that try and holding boulders up for you to fall under and releasing them when you get close enough. That's amazing. Who came up with that idea?
I believe that was Thomas, our lead artist. Who knows? We basically come up with like a blend. Like we use a Discord server pretty much for a lot of our stuff, and we just throw out ideas like, hey, wouldn't this be cool if, and or we need a set piece for this here, or what about here. And a lot of these were some of these were like community ideas where it came from somebody who knows from where. Thomas definitely came up with quite a few of them. Like I'm pretty sure the boulder thing was definitely all him. Like later in that level, there's a Cadillac that shows up and knocks out, like there's a couple of mutants that are there, and the Cadillac goes vroom and knocks them out. I'm pretty sure that was him. Stuff like that. There's like a dynamite that gets thrown out of a window in stage 3. Stuff like that. So that was mostly I would say him, and probably 75% of those were probably him.
Oh wow.
Or there was an iteration on the team, like where somebody came up with it and then we just implemented it. So
okay, as a segue for the enemies, I am going to go with references now. There's so many references in this game that I saw. I don't know if you guys noticed them. Like I did see obviously a DeLorean at some point, I think.
Yep.
I did see a Terminator sort of robot at some point.
Nailed it. We call it the legally distinct cyborg.
Yeah. Then there was reference, I think, to the turtles, to the what's this? I do forget the name. I'm a bit, the brain inside the flying saucer thingy.
Crane. Crane from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
The brain. Actually, I don't think that one might be. I don't know if that one's a reference or not. I just know I asked, like, dude, I need a flying enemy because we don't have any flying enemies. So I want to like come up with something like that. And maybe we did talk about Crane. So that's possibly a reference, but I can't even confirm that.
Right. Well, there you go. If it's not, you can make it be now. And what else? Oh, I did love the enemies that they were really hard. These were really pieces of beep, because the ones that put the robots on the floor and then guide them.
Oh yeah, the lab techs.
Oh, they hate them. I actually hated them.
I did that first, but then I started to use those to my advantage.
Oh yeah, you can absolutely use those to your advantage. Since they will hit other enemies, and there's blocking enemies that are in there that can be really annoying, and they can't block an explosion. So
what other reference did you guys catch? I think I got the Kingpin as well. That's about it.
I have a question. Are the zombies inspired off of Night Slashers? I think that's the name of the game, the arcade game.
No, none of us even knew Night Slashers existed.
Okay, they look really similar though.
One person on one of the YouTube videos even said, like, this is just a Night Slashers clone. I'm like, what is Night Slashers? And I had to look it up. And I'm like,
doesn't play anything like Night Slashers.
I was like, it looks awesome. Night Slashers looks great, but they only looked at the first level. It's like we have mutants in the first level that kind of look like that. But then later on,
I have a secret for you. YouTubers are fucking stupid.
Oh no.
Yeah, I try to work with people because sometimes it does come like, yeah, it's like, yes, that was a very ignorant comment, but then I'll try to be professional with them and be like, okay, yeah, like, no, it's not actually that. Stuff like that. I try. Most of the time it works out pretty well, but yeah, every once in a while there's just people that can't be reasoned with.
Yeah.
Don't pay any attention to them.
Yeah. I know how to turn it off.
Yeah.
I'm definitely the type that will like explain my logic, because that's part of what I do for a living is like, here's my plan, here's my logic on how to execute it. What do you guys think? I'm okay with feedback, stuff like that. But at some point you got to turn it off. And I can do that with the fun YouTube comments.
So any other reference you guys caught then?
No, honestly, I just really thought they were from Night Slashers. I don't know any. All the other references kind of slipped by me, I guess. It just went over my head.
There is a big one in stage 3. And it has to do with a really big door opening.
Interesting.
Nope, I don't remember.
Any of you guys ever played Double Dragon?
Yeah,
yes, I have.
Yeah.
Okay, the very beginning when the garage door opens and the the blue and red brothers walk out.
There's the car in it. What's it called? The Firebird.
Yep, there's the car in there too.
Yeah.
So that was actually our very first reference that we put in the game, is that one. I hate to spoil it for anybody listening, but there's more.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one's and it's actually there's a voice that isn't even very good because it wasn't recorded with a very good mic. It's actually our programmer. He says, instead of get them Jimmy, he says like get them Remy, or it sounds like get them Remy. So it's actually a callback to Double Dragon, but most people, you know, who haven't played it, of course, won't get it. But that is actually what it's from.
That makes sense.
Awesome. In fact, now you mention it, I remember there's an enemy. Sorry, I'm going to jump off on a tangent here. There's an enemy whistling, and that whistle was so well sampled, I guess, and it did sound that my son was whistling. I said, "Are you whistling?" At some point, I don't remember when it was, or maybe
that's from the stage 3 boss, the Arcade Punk, or as we call him, Arcade Punk. I believe he's called something actually different in the game. I just can't remember. We've only recently redid the names of stuff, so I'm kind of going by development names here. But yeah, that's actually a whistle that are from our programmer.
Awesome. So that brings us to the boss fights and other challenges. Diego, what was your favorite boss? And I think it's going to be my same favorite boss. And probably Steve.
Well, I might be a bit undecided because I also like the final boss, but I don't want to spoil anything about it. I really like the animation and the graphics of the last one, but I have to say that I managed to get to that point only in easy level, so the final boss was not that difficult really for me to beat, but only because I was playing at easy level. So I think I would like to see him better at higher levels because they get more moves, they get more tactics. I think, at least I think I noticed that between in the levels that I played with all the 3 difficulty levels, I think their bosses are pretty different. But anyway, other than the last one, I think that's the arcade boss, my favorite, because of the way it develops during the fight.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure I can spoil it because it's part of the fun.
And we can spoil later. Well, not too later because we're reaching the 2-hour mark. But let's do, when we finish this, we can go like we did for the other focus episodes. We can spoil a bit after.
But I think that the way it develops during the fight was quite hilarious.
And also the small
each boss.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, just real quick. Each boss does have a phase. There is a phase 1 that's the first life bar, a phase 2, and a phase 3, and the bosses do gain abilities between the phases.
Yeah.
So, and the arcade punk that you're talking about is the perfect example of that. It's the one that's most easiest to see that he's changing.
Yes.
That and the final boss.
And I also like the narrative of
I really like
changes.
that.
Oh yeah, that was something that I got pushback against. Nobody understood what I was wanting because that was actually the first boss that was in the game. That was the first stage and the first boss that was in the game. But it was just this big human meat sack that had like 4 different punches, and that was it. That's all he did. And so Alex and the team they're like, Michael, can you do something? Because I only came in to design the combat of the characters. I was not there to design anything else. My job has evolved drastically from when I started to when I finished. So then it became design all the bosses, including the boss we already have all the art for, make him fun. And so that was one of the things is I added the theme of him going back to his arcade cabinet, going like, I got to play harder and I gotta get these abilities so I can fight. And then he'll sick his enemies on you. And by the way, speaking, I've mentioned this multiple times, pet peeves. Bosses that just send multiple clone enemies you've already fought 50 times before annoys me in beat 'em ups. None of that happens in Vengeance Hunters, except for that boss fight. But it makes sense because of the storyline of the boss fight. He needs cover while he's sitting there at the arcade machine to try to get his new move. So he whistles, that whistle we talked about earlier, and brings in some of the street thugs, the punks. And like each phase you have to fight them, so that's the only fight you'll have to fight enemies you've already fought. All the rest of the fights are just the boss themselves. If you can't make a boss interesting by themselves, you have to throw in other enemies. I think you've done a bad job with design.
Ooh, no, that's a hot take.
I don't think that's that hot of a take, but I do think that I now know why, because it's so difficult and time consuming to make a proper boss fight, why people kind of go like, just throw some more enemies in there.
So how do you feel about, say, Thrasher from level 1 in Final Fight, the first boss?
Oh, I don't like any of that stuff.
Really?
I don't like
Death Adder from
enemies.
Golden Axe?
It kind of it makes sense actually in Final Fight. When you do it once, it's fine. But when every single, like, go play Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, go play almost any other beat 'em up that has like, you just fight like the same enemies you've been fighting all stage, and the boss has like 2 moves. Usually one of them's really cheap, and you just have to know to avoid it, and that's it. They don't have any other moves, any other mechanics. They don't change as the fight evolves or anything like that. You just kind of gotta, like, avoid the extra enemies and hit them when you can. And I do not like that. I am not a big fan of that, so I took it as kind of a personal quest to make sure that each one of the boss fights were, 1, unique, or at least unique in the game, and 2, did not recycle enemies.
Yeah, I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So what you're saying is that you hate beat 'em ups, you have no idea what you're talking about, and therefore your game sucks. Understand?
Hey, no. I said it was a pet peeve. I do not hate games that have that, and I actually, after somebody who's actually designed one of these, I fully understand why. Like, people are in time crunches, or they just can't come up with something, or it's really hard to come up with something.
I was just kidding, but it is like crazy to think that a lot of these games were made like in 4 months or 5 months or whatever.
Oh yeah. We had a little extra time a lot of times, but also some of those games also had much bigger teams with people that had done this before too. Like, we could probably, if we redid this game with exactly our setup that we have now and our knowledge that we have now, this game would take us probably 8 months.
And we'd put a shopping.
Yeah, we'd put a shop in just for you. You do get extra lives at least, so you buy extra lives of that. Like, those pickups actually matter. Every 12,000 points you get, you get an extra life. So you want to pick those things up. They're not like trivial or stupid.
Let me ask you something then. After Vengeance Hunters, what's your next project going to be like? Another beat 'em up, also for the Neo Geo or modern systems?
Definitely for the Neo Geo, unless that changes, and also it'll be for a style of game that is also not common on the Neo Geo. See, we wanted to make a beat 'em up because there's not that many beat 'em ups on the Neo Geo. We wanted to try to hopefully take the crown of the best one in that genre on the platform. Well, we're gonna do that. We're gonna try to do that with our second game. So I'll let you guys think about the genres that aren't really well represented on the Neo Geo. There is some good shmups on the Neo Geo.
Some good ones, but it usually I don't think it's like the main genre. Well, that's fighting games, but not the second main genre either. Okay, so it's not a shmup then.
It's not a puzzle game because there's loads of puzzle games.
I didn't say it wasn't a shmup.
I
didn't say it wasn't a shmup.
Yeah,
I love shmups. Put a shop in the shmups.
I'm gonna put a shop in every game from now on.
To be fair, a shop in a shmup is usually seen as a Euro shmup kind of move.
Hey, dude, what is it? Lords of Thunder.
That was
Lords of Thunder, one of the best
yes.
shooters of all time, has a shop.
I was thinking of like Japanese exceptions. That's literally the only one that came up in my mind.
I can't think of another one, but that's the one that I always think of.
There is another one actually by Capcom. I'm terrible with names. Sorry. It's like a post-apocalyptic future, and you can rotate your character around. It's also available on the Sega Genesis, one of the early games for the Genesis.
Oh, I might not have played that one.
I can't.
Oh damn it! I am really terrible with names for everything. Really.
Wait, is the level really big? Like you can go in any direction?
No. It's still like for scrolling, but I'm trying to remember. Damn it! I should know this. I'm sure the name will come to me because it's a Sega reprogrammed game from the original Capcom arcade.
Well, we'll figure it out, or if not, you can tell us afterwards if you find it.
I'm checking Google if it can help
okay.
right now.
Oh, too bad then. I was going to ask you what your favorite boss was, but let's move on until you found the answer to this. And
Forgotten Worlds. That's it. Forgotten Worlds also has a shop.
Yeah, I know that one.
Forgotten Worlds.
Yeah.
It's not a great game, let's be honest, but yeah, it has a shop.
Yeah, we like shops. Xenon 2 is terrible, but it's got a shop.
Oh, I hate Xenon 2 so much.
But the shop is so good, and supernatural.
It's literally the only good thing the game has. It's the shop.
Yes. Go shops. So yeah, I think You pretty nailed it. For me, the bosses were all enjoyable. They were very difficult at some point. Like there's one that rotates all the time, and then that was really hard, even on the simpler level. But as you said, there weren't any extra enemies. I especially enjoyed the alien with the jacket and the jetpack, and then trying to burn you with his jetpack. And I'm not going to spoil more than that now, but I really enjoyed all the bosses. So I think you did a great job of them. So there you go.
Thank you.
I don't know, St1ka, do you have a favorite boss?
Honestly, not really. To be honest, I didn't finish the game, so I'm probably not the best person to ask that.
So far. How many bosses did you get?
I got to level 3 boss. I mean, I liked them, but I'll admit there was not it's not a notch against your game. There was really no boss that I was like, okay, this one's gonna stick with me, I guess.
The pincers one, did that not stick? That was like nice. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, it was. Don't get me wrong. They were cool. They were cool, but it's kind of like I was more impressed by the regular enemies, and the levels than the bosses, because by the time you reach any boss, basically, the game already set the expectations. If that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I can see what you mean. Well, I think this is where we diverge a little bit on our opinions. I really enjoyed the bosses and had quite fun with them.
I'll just stick my YouTube fan base against all of you.
Yeah. Oh no.
In your you have like a little script thing that I was looking at, basically for like questions and stuff like that. You mentioned earlier that like I think you played on normal, St1ka. And,
yes, normal.
Yeah, and like I don't know what levels. Andres, did you play on? You said you played on easy.
Yes, I did. I played on Prey.
Okay, so yeah, there's Prey, Hunter, and Vengeance as the different modes. I wanted to take a quick second to talk about that. Another pet peeve of mine is when you have difficulty levels and all you do is add HP.
I hate that.
In our game, we not only add HP, but base enemy speed is increased. Base enemy time to attack is increased.
That's why it was so difficult.
The aggressiveness increases, like how quickly they'll come after you. Like sometimes they'll walk away and then they'll come after you. And then some of them have moves that also increase in percentage at the higher difficulty. Like there's some characters that can knock you out of the air. So if you keep jumping, they'll knock you out of the air. Only happens 25% of the time on easy and like 40% on normal. But on hard, it's like 75% of the time. Same thing for blocking. And so all this stuff like gets increased or changed. So and then also on Vengeance mode, for single player, you will get all the 2-player enemies in waves. So the game will change. Well, the challenge will be immense in Vengeance just because you're going to be playing all the 2-player, because there's not going to be a second player there to help you. 2-player doesn't get any boost like that. They basically do like boost up like enemy HP and some stuff a little bit further when you have a second player join. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there as the difficulties and the way it actually changes in our game versus most games. So yeah, the way you play, which difficulty you play on, and be like, man, this game plays really slow and like enemies move slow. Is like, well, you're playing on easy, aren't you? Yeah. Crank it up a little bit. They'll start moving a lot faster.
Yeah. I think we have to go a bit faster here because.
Sorry.
No. It's not your fault. It's I think it's too much to say as well in the game. There's lots of stuff. I would like to talk about the bonus levels. I call them bonus levels, but I thought those
the bike level is so much fun.
Yeah, and there's more. There's more to that, which was really impressive. And I was like, oh, they managed to stick this in here as well. Later on, won't spoil now.
You can say it. You can say it because it's in the trailer.
Okay, there's a shoot 'em up, and you can.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and I was like, first of all, when I saw the bike and it says ride, I was going to spend a little bit more time. Sorry, I might cut this out, but I was going to spend a bit more time talking about the bosses as well, because there's other stuff that I wanted to say, but I really have to talk about this if there's lack of time. So yeah, when I saw the bike ride, I thought, oh, amazing! I'm going to ride my bike as a robot, and I'm going to go around like Metal Slug. I was imagining initially, like the tank. and you can go around shooting enemies, and you're way powerful. And instead,
no.
it changes the game completely. And I was like, oh my god, what is this? And but I love that sort of surprise. I don't know, Diego, did you get that? Did you see any of this?
Yes, of course.
Mm.
I'm
What
not
did you
sure
think?
if in my version I had all those special levels. I saw a scooter
you have the
level and a
bike?
spaceship level.
Yeah, both. Yeah.
There was the karate mini game.
Yeah, but that was the boss. Wasn't that the boss?
That was part of the boss fight.
I was
but
gonna
it's
spoil
also
that
kind of a
later. Oh, okay.
yeah. No, it's fine. That's also in the trailer, so I don't mind it. Like and yeah, it's not a big deal.
That was amazing. The mini game of the mini fighting game.
Speaking
I
of
really loved
references,
that.
did anybody get that?
Was it IK Plus?
The karate mini game, what the reference is.
I thought like an 8-bit IK Plus sort of thing.
You guys ever seen, now maybe it's more popular over here, the movie The Last Dragon?
I have never seen that movie.
No.
With Bruce Leroy and Shonuff. Okay, maybe it's more popular over here, but that was actually, if you know that movie, people will be like, you know that Leonardo DiCaprio meme where he's like pointing at the TV or whatnot. They're gonna anybody who's seen that movie is gonna do that as soon as they see that little arcade thing.
Yeah,
I have admit, sorry. If I saw it, it went over my head.
yeah. Did you see the mini game with karate?
I only saw the one with the bike. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, I see. Oh, that's so odd. I tried to win. I lost that battle on. So basically, you have to battle against the boss in the video game, and I thought this is what I love about these games. We've seen this as well in Good Boy Galaxy. That was just amazing, and very. And even that they've put all these little gems inside, and I just think these just give an extra level of I don't know, polish, and not even polish. It's just another level of game design. I think when they put this other stuff in, that was incredible that you managed to fit. And even if I bet them being very small, completely different games, which I was like, oh, amazing.
Yeah, we're pretty proud of that. And again, we go back to like we were talking about, like why isn't there more like weapons that you can pick up in the game? It was so we could add stuff like this.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta put your time somewhere.
It's a trade-off.
Yeah. Anybody who works in like any sort of job where you have to have trade-offs and try to go the best route you think. Yeah, it's sometimes rough because you want to put in everything, but you can't sometimes.
Yeah. I, as St1ka said before, I hope this works out for you, that you've done it this way and not put the other stuff in for the older crowd, and it works out all right.
We'll see.
Yeah. But I literally enjoyed it, all these bits, and then when it also made sense when they were put in terms of the story and the level design and the progression. So I really liked that as well.
Actually, one other thing, going back to that conversation of worries, most Neo Geo games didn't use 4 buttons because the Neo Geo like controller sucks for 4 buttons. And so I'm also a little bit worried about that. Anybody who plays on a modern platform or uses a Neo Geo CD pad or even the Beam controller will be fine. But anybody using that default controller, it might be a little rough for them. Even the MVS cabinets, those are fine too, because the buttons are in a normal pattern that you can, press pretty easily. So yeah, might get knocked a little bit for just somebody who's playing with that controller in particular, because most Neo Geo games intentionally did not use 4 buttons because the 4th one is terrible to press.
But then whoever's using those controllers will be playing on a CRT, and they will be totally in awe, and will forget about the controllers. So there you go. Okay, one last thing here, unless, guys, if you have anything else, interrupt me. Hidden secrets. How many did you find? I think I found 2. Go.
Did I find any?
What
Were they hidden?
There's branches. You can go different. Ooh, did he drop off?
Uh-oh.
Hello.
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
We lost Michael.
Oh no, he's writing. Oh, let's see. Try to rejoin.
For anyone listening, he's saying, and I'm reading out loud, I'm sick and tired of all of you. I'm leaving this shit. Goodbye.
You bashed my game so much. I need to put a shop in. Oh.
P.S. The shopping Xenon 2 sucks. How dare you, Michael?
Oh, is he back in? It says past now. Offline. Oh, we'll have to cut this bit. I'm not going to do a separate recording because then I've got to download double the... Let's see. Oh. He has the sticker bug. He's got the computer.
No kidding. That literally screwed me up for a while there. Sorry, are we allowed to swear here? I already did it twice, I think. I'm sorry.
It's all right. No, we don't. But I'll bleep it out. Don't worry.
I apologize.
No,
I'll try to be
worry.
more careful.
No, it's all right. Don't worry about it. I've done it in the past as well once, and I had to bleep it out. Oh God. If I refresh, I will have to restart the. I can. I will have to do another recording and then do double. It's all right. This.
I guess you could just do you do your closing bits, we say goodbye, and then he adds his own goodbye later. I don't know.
Let me see. Hang on a second. Let me just see. I'll try refreshing. That's so odd. So you have to join. I'll put a link in the Discord on.
Hello.
There we go.
He's back. He's back. Hello.
So weirdly,
you were mouthing you, Michael, but I stood up for you. I stood up for
Thank
you.
you. I knew I had you in my corner. Also, I hate shops.
Oh no!
I literally made the same joke. I literally made the same joke. I literally made the same joke.
No. So, guys, I actually found a use for Microsoft Edge. For
Really?
whatever reason, Chrome just died on me. Like, my internet was fine the whole time, but Chrome just wouldn't let me rejoin. So I'm like, well, I know Edge is an acceptable browser. Let me try to get back in. And yeah, so I'm back in with Edge.
So I know what's happened here. This is the evil twin because you are still in here but offline. So you're talking ill about the shops because you're not Michael.
Yes, my evil twin is now here.
Yeah. Okay, I kind of lost my train of thought there. Yeah, so we were saying hidden secrets, and there were branches when you actually left, and I don't know who's found any. As I said, I found 2.
I don't think I did.
Diego, did you find any? No.
No.
So you can go in certain areas
right now.
Well, so that's because you haven't discovered the shops yet. So
There's a shop underneath the waterfall, I swear.
Oh, I'm going to play it again now. So, yeah, but basically there are areas where maybe you see an entrance or something. I don't know if this is spoilerage, but we've done lots of spoilering now. And you can actually go in those areas and there's a whole new level.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And that level is completely plastered with bonuses and stuff that you can pick up as loads of weapons, especially.
And weapons.
Yeah.
Finally.
Lots of weapons and one-ups, which really help you when you get out, and especially later on in the levels, it's really a boon to get that stuff. So
yeah, there's at least one major secret area per level, so you can miss out on major pieces of content by not finding the secret areas. We kind of took the From Software route for designing, like, hey, if you never find it and you just go through the game, you'll just never see that, and we're okay with that, even though it's hard. We're okay with that.
You're really going for the Vengeance Hunters is a Souls-like of beat-em-ups headlines, aren't you?
Let's not go there, but yeah, it's like definitely one of the things that I really enjoy about games like that, though. Like you can choose to just kind of follow a straight path. Maybe you just want to do something real fast, run through, punch some stuff, you can do that. But if you want to go secret hunting, we've got you. You know, there's a whole area that's going to reward you with, like, actually just pointing out, like, there is one-ups in there. In fact, there's always a one-up and at least one one-up in any of the secret areas. So it makes them worth going through. and there's other secrets you can pick up, which may or may not change.
Oh, yeah, I
the
found two of
ending,
those.
unlockables, stuff like that.
I found two of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what the use they have. I only got two, so I didn't complete them. So I have no idea. Do you get like something good?
Well, one of them is, and I'll spoil it because it's actually in the options menu. It's tied to an unlock. So there's a couple of modes you can unlock once you have found all of those. And there's another thing that's tied to that can actually change how the ending is. Not fully change the endings. There's actually a different ending for every character too, by the way.
Yeah.
So we didn't cheap out on that. But there is a point to those. Can't spoil too much on it, but there is definitely an unlock that's tied to it that unlocks a particular type of mode. We have a couple extra modes that help, I guess, extend replayability of the game.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I didn't know that. Okay. I don't know if you want to expand a little bit more on the different endings, and then we'll get to final thoughts and recommendations.
Like I said earlier, is like each character has their own story, has their own dialogue as you progress, has their own art scenes. Like there's usually at least one or two unique scenes between each level. So there is story. You can skip it, of course. And then like there's an ending specific to each character. And there is also a secret ending that's kind of inspired. Do you guys ever watch GDC, Games Done Quick, anything like that?
No, I haven't. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, there's a thing in Super Metroid where you can choose to save the animals, and all it does is changes the ending slightly if you choose to do this extra thing. Well, we have a secret that's not that, but it's kind of similar. It's at least inspired by that's in the game for people to find. So one of the goals was just to make sure like there is a bunch of like, things for people to find, to pick up, stuff like that isn't normally in the games from this era. So that's like earlier when you're talking about like, well, how do you compete against modern games? That's one of the things. Put in some fun stuff for the people that want to replay, that want to go hunting for stuff like that. Unlock some modes, find the secret areas. Like I said, there's at least one per stage. Some stages have multiple little secret areas, smaller ones. So great.
Okay. Perfect. So here we reach the end, and you'll get a relief sigh. So I think we can go in order. Overall experience, and would you recommend this game? Who should play it and who should not? I think we can go. Diego, you can start off as you've not been on for a little bit.
Well, as I said at the very beginning, I'm not really an expert on beat 'em up games, so trying to represent the same kind of people, and I would say that if you are not very much into beat 'em up games because you think they are repetitive and you think that whatever you do doesn't really matter at the end, I think this game will change your mind, because at least for me, it gave me many different ways to use the three characters' capabilities. Not more than one way per character, perhaps a couple of ways, even though I did not get into the combos very much. I did not explore the use of the buttons in the most efficient way, but I still found a different ways to play this game. And especially if you like the variety of the enemies, so having to adapt the way you use your character to different enemies, having to learn how to deal with each one of them, then you're gonna like this game, even if you're not expert in beat 'em ups.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. St1ka, what do you think?
It's actually kind of an interesting question, to be honest, because on one hand, I think people who just want like a normal beat 'em up are probably going to be disappointed. But if you're a beat 'em up fan and you want something with a bit of a twist to the formula, then you might enjoy it, but it might also not click with you. On the other hand, if you're like a fan of Devil May Cry, Ninja Gaiden, the modern Ninja Gaiden games, like those character action-based games, you're probably going to enjoy this one, because it's, in a way, it's very much, it's like a marriage of the two genres. So it's interesting on when I have to think on who this game is for, because when I really think about it, it seems to be like aimed at a very specific subgenre of people who enjoy beat 'em ups and who enjoy character action games. And I feel like this is almost like pinpoint targeted at them. So much so that like maybe character action fans might not enjoy because it's 2D instead of 3D, and beat 'em up fans might not enjoy it because the formula is turned on its head in a way. But I would still tell them to give it a shot at least. But yeah, I guess the only people I can definitely recommend to you without any hesitation is if you like Devil May Cry, if you like Ninja Gaiden 1 and 2 for the Xbox and Xbox 360, and if you like Streets of Rage or Final Fight or whatever, you're probably going to enjoy this one because it's the marriage of the two genres. Otherwise, I'd say give it a go, but be open-minded, I guess.
For me, I would say if you like shops, do not get this game.
Oh no!
I'm joking. I'm similar-minded like St1ka in a way. I think I played it as well a bit, expecting like a Final Fight sort of thing, and I didn't really click with me either because, as you correctly pointed out, the old generation is a bit more, I think, resilient. I kind of with you with the stats that you were talking about before. And I'm the same. So I was like, oh, hang on a minute. This is not, but then, this is not exactly what I was supposed to do. There's no weapons I can pick up. I can't throw. I'm like, oh. But then you start seeing all the other stuff very slowly. And some of the stuff also you have talked about to me that I have not seen. And the depth and breadth of how the combat system has so much to discover that I'm not used to because of the old formula, that it makes me want to think, okay, I played this and I was impressed by as a whole, but in reality I had a bit of bitterness because I thought this is not really Final Fight and I can't do this, and either the number of weapons the weapons are all above your head and they're doing the same move, but then all the depth of the game comes somewhere else where you're not expecting it. So this is more like St1ka said, give it a go and try and understand how it is different rather than complaining immediately and saying, oh, this is not Final Fight, this is not Streets of Rage. Just give it a go and try really and understand what they were aiming for and get into this weird mixture of genres, I guess. For me, there is an element of, as you say, for me, Devil May Cry with this sort of juggling, but I did not explore that and the ability to shoot and shoot again. For me, it was more like a merge between a fighting game and a beat 'em up. So you have the depth of the fighting game in a way inside a beat 'em up, which makes it quite interesting. But I didn't experience it that way. So I would suggest to anyone who's played it once and not played it how it's expected to play, to try it again after maybe listening to this and try and understand what they were going for, and you'll probably discover a whole new way of playing beat 'em ups, which has not yet been done. I think those are my 2 cents.
I do have a tip for anybody who's listening out there. This is something I always tell everybody. Anybody who's played the game or is going to play the game, hit the pause button. Go to the move list.
Yeah.
Read the moves. There's 2 pages there, and just go do it a couple of times. Like, just try to do that a couple of times because the inputs are super easy. Like, they are very forgiving. The timing on them is super easy. Go there to the move list, do the couple of moves, and then all of a sudden things will start to click. If you don't ever do that and you go in with the preconceived notion of this is just going to be Streets of Rage and it doesn't turn out like Streets of Rage, you're going to be unhappy. But if you're also the type of player who's like, oh, I have to go to a move list, I have to read the moves, and that instantly turns you off, probably not going to be the game for you.
Okay, well, that sort of settles it then. Pricing, here we go. And then we've got a quick Q&A that has been posted by one of our helpers. But it's really quick. Pricing for Steam and how much does it cost on Neo Geo?
On Steam and every single modern platform in the United States, and mind you, I'm pretty ignorant of prices elsewhere, including like what the price of the dollar here versus there. So prices are going to vary, against even the euro and whatnot. Is $20 USD.
Yeah.
So we're going to launch at $20 for any of the modern platforms. On the Neo Geo, there is a couple different pricing options. And that's actually, and this is going to be in euros, is the base edition is 349 euros. And then there's a special edition that's 429 euros. And there's also another limited edition that's 429 euros. But those are actually limited, and those come with like a red cartridge, basically. And some people don't even want the red cartridge, so that's why we have the option for either one. So it's very expensive on the Neo Geo, but that's basically there. Everybody who collects for the Neo Geo already knows this.
And I think you explained before the costs of making the cartridge for Neo Geo is probably way higher than it is to make
prohibitive.
a SNES or a Mega Drive cartridge.
Oh Lord, yeah, it is way higher. Like they're huge. The memory costs a ton. The soldering, the amount of complexity is huge. There's 2 PCBs instead of just the 1 PCB. Just a lot more material, and ours is based on essentially the platform that basically allows us to like encrypt the game so it can't just be dumped day one. Like some of our peers, people are also making Neo Geo games. They've released their game and they've released their ROMs, and within a week they were on AliExpress for $60. And I feel so bad for them because like, what do? They're already undercut within a week. And I'm actually a game preservationist. I would love for us to eventually put out a completely unrestricted ROM, plays on anything, but for now it's just going to be locked to that card. There is talks about also selling a ROM if you own a Neo SD or a Neo SD Pro. You can then basically buy the game and then play it on that card. And that'll be priced pretty similarly to what the modern consoles probably are. Or it might be a little bit more expensive. I don't know, but it's going to be. But that's another one that's not out there for. You're talking about pricing, but that might not happen for like maybe even a year.
Right. Okay. So let's get into the Q&A really quickly. I really don't want to go over the 2 hours and a half because it becomes a very, very heavy episode to edit. Why did you... So this is our collaborator, Retro Games Mania. He helps us with some social stuff and a lot of enthusiasm, let's say. He was asking, why did you not put it on the CD? On the Neo Geo CD?
Because it's really, really slow, especially with the larger games. It'd be very difficult. We'd have to essentially load the game multiple times throughout the stage, interrupting. Also, again, back to encryption and not having the game immediately just dumped. That's another concern is on the CD platform. That's a very big thing that happens on that platform. There is people that are very much enthusiastic about the platform and love that new games come out on it. I'd love to be able to put one of those out, but I can't promise that. Also, there's not a lot of love for the Neo Geo CD on the team. I think I might be the only one that actually kind of likes the system. I actually own all 3 models of the hardware.
Yeah, you're one of the rich guys.
Yeah, I'm staring at a box CDZ right now. And I've got one of them set up to, run everything. But yeah, that's why it's not on the Neo Geo CD, is there is actually a lot of technical considerations, and it really interrupts gameplay, and it can be a pretty bad experience. And then plus also just, we don't want it to be dumped right now.
Fair enough. I mean, I understand it, but I also really, really want the ROM. I really hope it comes at some point in the future.
I would love to play it on Mister. I've been an early adopter of Mister from 2017 or something like that. I'd love to be able to do that, but even I can't do it.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I'm sure you can.
No, I mean, we have it. The ROM's encrypted. It will only play on very specific dev carts right now.
Right.
Okay. And has for quite some time, since I think July or something like that.
I think this you need to do a bit short. Like, he was asking, how did you do the AI for the enemies in the game? We didn't touch on this, or did we touch on the music? Unfortunately, but the music is really fantastic in my opinion. It's very varied. That's all I can say. But he was just asking, how was the AI generated for the enemies?
there is no AI, and there really isn't for any of these games. It's just scripted pretty much. Each one has kind of a default set of things that it will do, and it will try to like go towards where it knows the player character is and then walk away. And that's varied per character. And then it's also based on like, it knows how far it can hit. So like you mentioned earlier, you had like a zombie that can hit you from a long ways away. It knows where it can start its swing from. And then going back to when I was talking about difficulties and how we can change the parameters for like how fast something even attacks, how fast it moves, stuff like that. That'll feel like it's different AI, but it's really doing the same thing. It's just doing it faster, slower, based on like which other enemies are on the game. Because there is also a clumping mechanic. Like some of them will try not to clump, like they'll try to surround you. But that's about as far as it goes, because the Neo Geo just doesn't have much CPU power to do anything crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah. So we try to fake it as much as we can to make it seem intelligent, but we can only go so far.
Okay. Any other questions from you guys?
No, for me, I'm done. I have no more questions.
Diego?
Fine.
Okay. So, yeah, we'll leave it at that, guys. Thank you for coming. So I'll say game@newgameoflaming.com is where you can write your emails, join our Discord, listen to the podcast, subscribe, and obviously listen to St1ka and go and see his YouTube videos.
I watch them all the time.
There you go.
You big fat liar.
No, actually, I do. I've been subbed to you for years, man.
Let me guess, it's the thumbnails.
Yes, your thumbnails are amazing. They draw me in every time.
Good. They're doing their job then.
All right. Well, thank you all for coming. Thank you, Diego. Thank you, St1ka. And it's been a pleasure to talk to you all. Mike, thank you as well. And I guess we'll see you hopefully very soon. Shout outs to Guido. Hope he's doing all right. And I hope to have him back really soon. That's it. Until next time, guys, see you soon and put a shop in the game. Bye.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.